Hey everyone, it's ThomasWoodenRailway, and I'm here with a very special celebratory / anniversary type video that I'm going to be uploading a couple of days before my 10th anniversary on YouTube hits. So first things first, I'm not in my usual recording spot. I'm actually sitting at my desk in my room here. So if my voice sounds a little bit different or if it's a bit echoey, that's probably why, but hopefully it's not too distracting. So like I mentioned, in just a couple of days here, it's going to be April 24th, 2018, which is actually the 10th anniversary for my presence on YouTube with an official account. You know, I haven't really done anything special over the past couple of years for anniversaries or anything like that. I made a big video in 2009 after my 1-year anniversary, but I haven't really done anything since then, although my 5-year anniversary in 2013 I did a contest. But I figured for a big milestone like your 10-year anniversary, I thought I would do something very, very different. I've never done anything like this before, and I want to take you guys back into a part of not only YouTube history, but also Thomas Wooden Railway history. This video, I'm going to be showing off a number of different video clips that at one point I uploaded to my channel and then removed, or some of these clips never even made it to YouTube. And really it's just my way of saying thanks for supporting me over all these years. I get requests from time to time, can you show us any like behind the scenes clips from your series or your channel or anything like that. And I really don't have anything packed away, hidden away, except for these video clips here that I'm going to share with you. There's roughly, there's over like 30 video clips that I want to show you guys, and they date all the way from about May or June 2008 to about September or October of 2009. So they're all during the either Keekre24 era of my presence on YouTube, and there is some elements from the Thomas Wooden Railway channel as well. So this video is just designed to be a sort of sit back, relax, enjoy the moment. I'm just going to try to talk to you guys naturally. I got a bottle of water beside me here, and I'm really just going to go through and kind of explain what these video clips are about, why they were removed, why they're no longer on YouTube, and just any other fun facts that I can think of. So before I actually get started with showing the actual video clips, I just want to give a very, very brief history about my time on YouTube. Maybe this will become another full-length video one day just about the topic of YouTube and how I got started. But around the summer of 2007, I was just on YouTube and I was watching all these different types of videos, and at the time I had put my Thomas stuff away into storage in these bins, and I hadn't really touched it in a couple of years because I'd kind of outgrown it. But during that summer, something really piqued my interest, and I kind of pulled my Thomas stuff out again. And Thomas was by far, my favorite type of toy, or my favorite franchise growing up. So whereas I gave most of my toys away after I was done with them, I kept all my Thomas stuff because, that stuff was pretty special to me. So over the summer, I pulled out some of the Thomas stuff that I kept since I was a kid, and I was just kind of curious one day on YouTube. I was like, there's all these different people out here on YouTube, which in 2007 was a very, very small website compared to what it is today, but it was still massive. And I was like, there's all these different types of people out here making all these different types of videos about gaming and really any topic you can think of. And I'm wondering if there are people out there that make videos revolving around the Thomas Wooden Railway merchandise line. So I think I just went onto YouTube and typed in the words Thomas Wooden Railway into the search bar, and all these results popped up, and there were a number of different YouTubers out there who were making these types of videos, and that really piqued my interest. I was like, wow, it's really cool to see these people who are beyond the the target demographic for the toys and the show. They still have their toys from when they were kids, and they're making their own custom episodes, and I just thought that was super cool. And it was very brave of them because, it's not easy being a fan of something or liking, a specific topic that isn't socially acceptable, if that makes sense. Liking Thomas past the years of 7 or 8 in most cases really isn't, normal. But at the same time, I just want to, clarify that and saying, you know what, if you like something, you shouldn't be ashamed of what anybody thinks about it or anything like that. But at the time, I was still very cautious about, suddenly picking up my toy trains from my childhood and almost reverting back to the form I was back in during those days with making your own special episodes and everything. So that was in the summer of 2007. I got a bunch of inspiration for a number of different YouTubers. But at the time, I was like, you know what? I want to do what these people are doing. I want to make my own videos, but I don't have time to make it happen before like the school year starts up in August or so. So I decided during that summer, I was going to basically prepare so that during the next summer of the year 2008, I would be up and ready to go. So during those 9 months during the school year, from about August or September 2007 to about April, May, June of 2008, I just saved up my money and was just, started building layouts for fun, just trying to prepare myself so that when I wanted to start a YouTube channel and upload videos, at least I wasn't starting from, the ground floor. At least I had something to build off of and a little bit of experience, because I hadn't played with my Thomas stuff in a really long time. So then April of 2008 came along, and of course, I'm getting really excited. The school year's almost over. I'm really looking forward to, making Thomas Wooden Railway videos. But the big thing I was looking forward to was starting my own series. That was the big thing I wanted to do. And just so happened that on April 24th, 2008, I was just messing around on YouTube, and I pulled up the little area where you could sign in or make an account on the website. And I filled out, some of the information like my username, and I think you had to include an email and obviously a password. And at the bottom of the page, I think there was like a confirm button or like a next button. And I thought, okay, it will send me to another page where I can basically read through what I've written down, and then like after that there will be a confirmation page where I can actually like choose to make an account. And I hit that button there on the bottom, and lo and behold, that was actually the final step, and I made a YouTube account. And I really didn't mean to make a YouTube account. I knew I was going to have to make one eventually in order to upload videos, but I was like, oh, I just made a YouTube account, and it's called Keekre24, which was a name that I just made up for fun. And I didn't want to do something too exclusive to Thomas in case I wanted to branch out into these other areas, but it ended up being Keekre24, which is Keekre, and then the letters or the numbers 2 and 4. And that ended up being the very first YouTube channel that I made. Now, obviously, right now, I am on the account called Thomas Wooden Railway, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But that was my first account, and towards the end of May, early part of June, I began uploading some videos that I'm going to show you in just a moment. These were just smaller videos that I was really just making in order to test out the website to see what it was going to be like, get any potential reaction or feedback from people out there that might see it. But then in the middle part of June, I just woke up one day and I was really unhappy with where my channel was at. It was full of all of these smaller types of videos. And I was like, you know what? I want my channel to be professional. I want it to have a clear message. And, I don't want all of these random videos about. So I deleted everything. And I just started over with the first episode of my Wooden Railway series, and I uploaded that. And that's pretty much how it went. And over the course of the summer and into the fall, I uploaded many different episodes of my series. I even uploaded remakes and, really remakes and movies. And that continued up until about January of 2009. And my channel had grown quite a bit. The feedback was great. I had made a lot of great friends. Fortunately, I'm, friends with some of those people still to this very day, which is incredible. And everything was going really well. I was doing my own thing. I was making my videos how I wanted to make them, and I was really happy. And then in January 2009, it all came crashing down when a fake YouTube Help Center account contacted me and was like, hey, we're from YouTube, and we want to make some upgrades to your account, or we need to check the status of your account. Can you please give us your email or your YouTube account is linked to your email still to this day. They were like, can you send us your email and your password and we'll just check everything out. And I was being, the very gullible young person that I was. And obviously, nowadays that seems like a no-brainer. Like, obviously you shouldn't give that out. But internet safety has come a really long way in those 10 years since then. So I made the very foolish decision of giving that information to this account, and then the next day I try to log in and I can't, and they basically hacked my account and changed the password and deleted all the videos that I worked on, which was really disheartening. And it was just awful, because you wake up one day and you try to log in and all of that hard work you've put into for the past 9 months is just gone. So I moved on to a backup account that I had, which was called NW Breakvan, which was just a backup account that I had in case something like this happened. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Did I want to upload every single video that I had uploaded over the past 9 months, or did I kind of want to start over fresh and kind of, use the lessons and learn from my mistakes as I'd done during those 9 months or something like that? So then I ended up moving to a third account, which was called ThomasWoodenRailway, and that's the account that's online and running today. And the ThomasWoodenRailway account, I never intended on using full time. I was actually shocked one day because I just ended up searching like youtube.com/user/ThomasWoodenRailway, all one word. And I was wondering who had the account, because I was like, that would be a pretty cool account name. And nobody had it. When somebody doesn't have a specific account name, it just comes back as an error message. And I thought, ooh, this would be kind of interesting. So I made a separate account, because I was on my backup account at the time. I made a separate account, and I was just going to kind of keep that account in reserve. But then a couple days later, I think that happened on like February 5th, 2009. A couple days later, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be making ThomasWoodenRailway videos, maybe the username ThomasWoodenRailway would, be kind of perfect. So I moved everything over there, and obviously this era of YouTube was young and innocent, and these big companies weren't on YouTube yet, and it was just a really fun place to upload videos. And so that's how I ended up with the ThomasWoodenRailway YouTube name, and I've been on this account ever since. So along the way, that goes from basically April 2008 to March or so of 2009. Along the way, I uploaded a lot of videos that either were uploaded to my channel and then removed, or I filmed a couple of videos that never made it to my channel. But this video, this long compilation, is just going to be those individual video clips. I want to show you these types of videos that for one reason or another were removed from my channel. Some of them are really boring, like some of them are just test videos. Other ones I think are more interesting, like there's a bunch of remakes that I did in January, February of 2009, and then possibly one of the most sought after pieces of work that I ever did was a movie called Wheels of Fortune, which was uploaded in the summer of 2009. Now that was removed for a couple of different reasons, but I'm going to go in chronological order here of when these videos were uploaded. And in some cases, I'm going to have to mute the audio because it contains like a copyrighted track or something like that. And other times, just the audio is so bad that I don't want you guys to hear it. But anyway, when all this is going on, I'll be kind of providing a little bit of a summary of what the video was, the purpose of it, why it was removed from that channel, and any other fun facts that I can think of. So that's my short introduction at about 13.5 minutes. Sorry that went so long, but this is going to be a long video. And like I said, it's just designed to be a very relaxed, sit down, listen if you want. I'm sure this video won't appeal to everybody out there, but if I was ever going to release these, secret hidden videos onto YouTube, I thought, maybe my 10-year anniversary would be kind of the appropriate time. So with that said, I guess we'll get started here with one of the very first videos that I made back in 2008. This first video clip is appropriately titled Test Video, and I'm thinking this was recorded around late May of 2008, and really what I was doing in this video is I was trying to see what my footage would look like when it was uploaded to my computer. I'm positive I never uploaded this to YouTube because it was just intended to be a test video. It's only 15 seconds long, and it was filmed with that awful camera that I had at the time that I filmed a couple of my very early episodes of my series, you can hear like the physical whirring of the camera. You can almost hear like the gears clanking in the camera. It was meant to take pictures. It was that type of camera. It wasn't like a recording camera. So it was really low quality. It was low quality back in 2008, and it looks especially bad 10 years later when everything's been amped up. So here's the video. It's only 15 seconds long. And as you can see, it's just me showing off Thomas on that one layout that I had. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt in May for some reason. I have the layout set up. There's what my room used to look like. And it's short. It's over. That's how quick it was. It was a test video just to see how, you know, the footage would look on my camera or on the computer once it was uploaded. And I think somewhere along the line, I remember thinking, you know, this camera is awful. It has terrible quality, but it's better than nothing. So I think that's why I ended up filming this footage, just because I wanted to see what it looked like on the potential big screen. The second video here is also titled Test Video 2. This video is quite a bit longer. It's about 42 seconds, which is in comparison to the 15 seconds that I showed earlier. And it's a much more in-depth, detailed video. I've muted the audio, but in the background it's just me saying Thomas is a tank engine that lives on Sodor with his two coaches, Annie and Clarabelle. For some reason I filmed this like later in the afternoon. You can kind of tell by the shadows, and I moved Stepney along. I think I was rehearsing the opening scene from episode 2 of my series, which was called like Stepney's Problem. And I'm just saying, like, you know, what are you doing, Stepney? Oh, I'm showing off the Sodor Museum fossil car. And Thomas is like, that's pretty neat. I mean, honestly, it's probably verbatim as to what that original episode was. But this shot has a lot more action going on. I'm moving the camera around, I'm moving the engines around, and it comes to a stop right about there. And it was a lot more active, and there was a lot more going on compared to the first video test that I did. So whereas the first video didn't have any audio, I actually spoke in the background of this one. And like I said, I just omitted the audio from this, you know, thing that I'm doing here, just because you can't really tell what I'm saying. The audio is really horrible. And like I said, you can hear the camera like whirring and making noise in the background. That was just an awful camera. So these test videos, I mentioned this before, they were just designed for me to upload to my computer to see what they looked like. At this point, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my channel. And obviously, I was stuck with this one type of camera here that I was able to use, and I wasn't too thrilled about it, but I guess I was satisfied because I ended up using this camera for a couple more videos. This next video is a really interesting one. I've titled it The Original Collection Video because at the time, even way back in 2007, 2008, collection videos were all the rage. And because I had a camera that had terrible quality and even worse audio, I decided not to speak during this video. I didn't go around like naming any of the engines or anything like that. I just went along and showed my collection. So as we get started here, I made my own little custom title card that says Keekre24 proudly presents my ThomasWoodenRailway collection, because there wasn't, you know, I wasn't saying anything. And this is a really interesting video. You're going to see basically all of the trains that I had at the time, obviously. A lot of the old style engines that I would later use in the early seasons of my series. A lot of these engines are from my childhood, but this was actually filmed. It wasn't filmed in my room. It was actually filmed in sort of this open area right outside my room. So you can kind of see the baseboard in the back there and that annoying red light that comes across Daisy there when this, I don't know why this camera did that, but this was not actually filmed in my room. It was filmed in kind of the landing area, the open area outside of my room. So you're actually going to see parts of my house that I don't think I've ever shown off before. But I was just going through all of the engines at the time. I didn't stick them on track or anything like that. I just stuck them on the ground like everybody else. So yeah, you can, like, there's a couple of rooms down there. I have no idea why I filmed it in this particular area. Probably just because it was wider. There was more room. I separated my Thomas and the Magic Railroad engines way back then, and that's actually overlooking into my family room, which is just weird. Like, I don't know why I filmed this video the way I did. Did I flip? Yes, I did flip Mighty Mac around, even way back then. So this is a very ragtag, put together collection almost at the last minute type of thing. Considering my collection videos nowadays are like in the 15-minute range, and this one's like 3.5 minutes, you can definitely see, I don't know why I picked up that coach there, just to show off it was a Knapford Express coach, and then I pick up Henrietta for some reason. I don't know. But my collection has definitely grown since these interesting days. There's Cranky. And then the door that you see behind Trevor and Butch here, that's actually a closet. And I think you're going to see my room in the background here just a second to give you some type of bearing. So if we go over to Hector, yeah, so back through there where that door is, that's actually where my room is. But I filmed it out on this open area, open carpet area outside of my room for some reason. Like I said, I think it's just because I had more space. I mean, at the time, I felt like I had a pretty decent collection. Obviously, it's grown in the 10 years since I've done YouTube. But I was down on my hands and knees, you know, on my elbows even, you know, trying to get good shots of all the rolling stock that I had. There's like another banister there. And then there's the stairs. I have no idea why I filmed this out there, but those are the stairs that actually lead down to the, you know, the main level of my house. So really interesting. I have no idea, and the reason the Spiteful Brake Van is kicked forward is because I hit it with my foot while I was spinning around. There's my original Thomas that I have no idea where it went. I wish I could find that. But yeah, I separated the engines into categories like everybody still does today. And they were laid out in basically a giant circle, and I spun around and showed them all off, and you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's the end of the video right there. So that was the very first original collection video that I did. I can't think of a reason why I would film it in there. I'm guessing because I had my layout up in my room, that I didn't have enough room to spread everything out, but you'd think I'd, you know, think of a different place to do a collection video than the outside area right outside my room. So I don't know why I did that, but that's not the only collection video that I filmed during this time. I also made a rare collection video, which for some reason was a thing back then. It's like, you know, you wanted to show off all of the items in your collection, but then you wanted to make a special video where you showed off the quote-unquote rare items. And the problem with using the word rare is that it's generally subjective. So what I could think is a rare item may not be rare to somebody else who has like 10 of them. So anyway, as we get started here, I have, you know, the opening title card again, and then a different piece of paper because it's my rare Thomas Wooden Railway collection this time around. And this one was actually filmed in my room. I'm over in this open area kind of by the docks. Don't really know how else to explain it, but hopefully if you know the Season 1 and Season 2 layout, you know, decently well, you'll kind of know where that is. And this is, I mean, you know, that first collection video was pretty rough. This one's even more rough. I put in all of my 1990s engines because they were rare for some reason, and I put all of the duplicates that I have of them next to each other. Again, no audio in this. Really shaky. Boko and Daisy, those two models are still used in my series today. Everybody else has kind of received an upgrade. But yeah, I just put engines everywhere. There's really no order. Look, I just jump over there. So there's the docks and there's the siding. And then beyond that is Elsbridge Station where the rest of the layout is. And like I have engines on the carpet, but then I have Derek on the track there. It was kind of a mess. But that's kind of the beauty of what YouTube used to be like. You weren't trying to impress anybody, you were just doing what was fun. And I really do miss that part of YouTube. Whereas nowadays it's views and money and everything else. But back then, I mean, nobody made money off of YouTube during this era. It was, everybody did it for fun. And honestly, I feel like, you know, some of my most creative stories or best ideas came out of this era for sure. So yeah, I mean, you may look at some of these items and think that's not really rare, but for some reason at the time, I thought, you know, the Knapford Express coach was rare. The Duke and Duchess's coach is rare. I mean, I guess Henrietta's rare. But then again, I mean, you can argue that certain items are rare for one person, but they may not be rare to another. And I think I moved Birdie out of the way there because the sun was shining through. And I moved Butch out of the way. And then I'm like, oh man, I have a ton of engines in the light here. The camera gets super clear there for a moment. I wish it could be clear like that all the time. And then we have Rocky. and, you know, Tiger Moth, and just stuff everywhere. So I'm guessing this was done on a whim because there's very little preparation involved. But yeah, that's my rare collection at the time. And most of the items you see there are from my childhood collection. Actually, a couple of months before I started making a YouTube series, this would be about April or May of 2008, I saved up my money all year long. I talked about, you know, back in the summer of 2007, I decided that in the summer of 2008 I was going to start my series. So I saved up a ton of money. And then one day I went to a local toy store and spent about $250 worth on Thomas Wooden Railway items, and I was trying to get the more up-to-date characters because I had, like, you know, Gordon and Edward and stuff from my childhood, but I didn't have, or I shouldn't say that, I got a new style Henry a couple years before that, but that's when I bought, like, Murdoch and Harvey. I bought the Breakdown Train and Rocky and Arthur. I know I said Murdoch. I had Emily at that point. I bought Ari and Bert, I want to say. But, and I mean, I spent a lot more money than that. I spent, or I bought the Cookie Factory cargo cars. I just went all out one day and went on a shopping spree. So a couple of days before I started my series, or a couple of weeks, I should say, I went out and spent a ton of money just to get those upgraded engines so that I would have some somewhat current characters in my series. The next video I'm going to show off is a review that I did on Terence. Now, this was a very special item to me because this was actually the first item that I bought off of eBay. And eBay back in 2008 was kind of a very weird place. I had to convince my parents that, you know, there's actually like some rare items on eBay and I want to spend my money on them. And of course they were hesitant because it's like you're sending money to a stranger. You don't know if you'll get anything in return. You could get ripped off. So it took a really long time for me to convince them that, you know, eBay is actually okay. So one character that I never had from my childhood was Terence. And I ended up buying the new version because I think this version was actually still sold, you know, in 2008. Versus trying to find an old one that was in good condition. And I bought it new in box, and but for this video I'd taken it out of the box and I was just showing off Terence here as it was. But I remember I was so excited because this was the first eBay item that I bought. And people did this all the time back then. You know, whenever you got a new item, whenever you bought something new off of eBay, you made a special individual video about the item, which some people still do today, but I think it's, you know, it's not a very popular style of video because it's like, okay, like, cool, you bought one item off of eBay and that's worthy of a video. So the perception of these types of videos has definitely changed. But let me play it here. This was a big moment for me. At the time, I actually, there used to be an option, believe it or not, to send a check in the mail to the seller. And they would send you the engine back. Now, that's obviously not the case today. You have to do it through PayPal. But I didn't want to use PayPal because I thought PayPal was weird. So I try moving Terence along the ground to show how his caterpillars work, and I actually hit the camera there. You know, you just turn him around and you show him off, and you're like, hey, everybody, look what I bought. And that was just the style of video back then. Of course, he was new in box, so he came with a character card, which I still have. And it was just a big moment for me. It was like, wow, like I bought something on the internet, and it came to me. Whereas, like, nowadays, that's super common with Amazon and all that. But Amazon existed. I don't think they were really into toys back then. And I tried to get the character card to stand up, and it kind of worked. But that's it for Terence. So, for some reason, I made this type of video just really to show off this new Terence that I got. I was really excited about it, you know, because it was my own money, and I was spending it. But obviously, a video like this wouldn't fly today. And that's kind of why these videos are no longer on YouTube, because, you know, you get into June 2008 and I was like, you know what, I don't really want any of these smaller videos on my channel. I kind of want to stick with the bigger and better stuff. So that's why it was removed. But before I said goodbye to these types of videos, I was in a bookstore called Borders, which doesn't exist anymore, a lot of things have changed in 10 years. I was in this bookstore called Borders, and of course they had a video section, and I stumbled upon a new in-box Thomas and the Special Letter DVD that included a Duncan engine. And Duncan was one of those characters I never had as a kid. I thought he was, cool because he was a troublemaker and he was nice, bright, and yellow. So I immediately jumped on this, and once again, I made this style of video where I basically showed him off for the world to see. So I mostly focus on Duncan in this video. Got that annoying red light because I don't know why. And I'm just like, yep, they came with a DVD, but it was one of those combo packs that used to be really common. They don't do them anymore. But Duncan was new in box, and I want to say, the DVD was $15, so it was a pretty good deal in my opinion. Again, flipping him around, showing him off, basically saying, hey, he is indeed new. Of course, the lighting is really bad. And I should say this, in the Terence video and in this video, I didn't say anything because the audio was so terrible. And there's the DVD. And that was about it. It was like, hey, everybody, I got this new Duncan. It came with a DVD. Thanks for watching. So that video was like, 43 seconds long, which isn't very impressive. And yeah, I've mentioned this before. These types of videos were really popular back in the day. However, nowadays, if people did this type of stuff, I think viewers would complain that you're just clogging up their news feed or their video feed or whatever they call it. So, but yeah, I was pretty psyched to get Duncan, considering, I was at this point I was probably looking at getting him off of eBay because I didn't know where else to get him, but I found him, coupled with this DVD. And if I remember correctly, I got him for a very good price at Borders, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's kind of a fun trip down memory lane. This next video is a very peculiar one. I doubt even most people know it exists, but at one point, I did make a Thomas Lego crossover. And this was intended just to be a one-off video series that I wasn't even going to upload onto my regular channel, Keekre24. I was going to upload it onto a separate channel, and it never got past the first episode. I didn't film anything else, but this type of video needs a little bit of an explanation to make sense. In a moment here, I'm going to play the original video with its original audio, just normal like you would have watched on YouTube back in 2008. It was on YouTube for probably about a week or so before I took it down. And so I'm just going to let you listen to the normal, regular video and the audio, like normal, and then I'm going to play it back with no audio so that I can kind of explain what's going on and point out, specific things on screen, that sort of thing, but without the audio in the background, so it's not very distracting. But before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of background. This type of video was very heavily inspired by like the Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario World, where you travel around to a bunch of worlds and there's a different boss there. And really the point of this video was that these 4 Lego people named Big Al, Tim, Gerald, and Clayton all come together. They travel in this nice, cool, fancy Lego car called the B4, like the letter B and then the number 4. I know I was so creative back then. This car that they travel in is called the B4, and then there's a couple of jokes where it's like, oh, what's your next car? Is it like the B after, like B4, B after, that sort of thing. And basically what happens in this video is that we start off with an overview of the island of Sodor. We meet up with Tim, who's talking to Harvey, and then Big Al comes along, and Big Al is sort of like this mad scientist guy who is really rich, and he ends up creating the car, and he ends up basically recruiting these guys to go on this long trip with him. And the trip, as everybody finds out towards the end of the video, is that they're going to travel around to 6 different worlds. And the worlds are comprised of many different things. Basically, if I continued this series, I would have just gone around to different parts of my house and filmed them as like a quote-unquote world. Like I would have filmed one world in the kitchen and one world in the basement, and of course like the characters would run into problems and trouble. I think I was imagining like Big Al, who was the creator of the car. In one of the worlds, Big Al would fall off a cliff and everybody would think he was dead, but then he'd come back in another world. And I don't know why I chose 6 worlds. I think it's because, this was like an opening video, which is 1, and then we go around to the 6 worlds, and that, there'd be a video in each world, so that brings the total to 7. And then there'd be a final video where they come back to Sodor and resume their lives, presumably. So that'd be 8 videos. But yeah, so very quickly, Big Al is the inventor of the car. Tim, I mean, I remember I wrote down descriptions of what I wanted them to be like, but he's kind of just your average, normal, everyday guy. Gerald is this old guy who's really into trains, which is why he's on Sodor probably, but he's old, so, he represents, that sort of demographic. And then Clayton is sort of this hipster dude, although I don't think hipsters were around in 2008, but he's a younger guy, and I distinctly remember in the description of this original video, I wrote down, a little bit about the 4 main characters, like how Big Al is a mad scientist, and I remember it was going to be revealed that Clayton had either just gotten out of prison or he had broken out of prison, and I think that was going to be revealed in one of the worlds. Like, these guys are all friends, but they don't really know that much about each other, and then in one of the worlds, all of a sudden, like, Clayton's like, yeah, did I ever tell you guys I broke out of jail? And that would be, cause confusion and all that. So really, that's the premise of this video. It's set in a world where, Lego minifigures are basically the people on Sodor. So take that, Enterprising Engine 93, and everybody else who does Lego stuff with trains. I kind of did it first. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But yeah, let me play the video for you guys with the audio. Try to ignore the annoying, reeling sound in the background, and just, try to pick up on as much of the audio as you can with what they're saying. There's some really cringy jokes. I cringed while watching this because it's 10 years old and it hasn't aged very well, and honestly, it's just me being me 10 years ago. But anyway, I thought you guys would want to see it. So without a doubt, I can't remember what I called this video series, but let's just call it the Thomas Lego video.
It was a bustling day on the island of Sodor. The yard was heavy with work. Gordon was pulling the express, Murdoch with the large goods train, and Duncan with the animal train. And Percy and Duck were pulling Farmer McColl's milk. However, at the dock, something new was going on. Harvey the crane engine had just puffed in, and he went stalking to Tim. Why are you waiting here? Asked Harvey. Well, said Tim, Henry was supposed to pick me up. He's late again. What time is it? Asked Harvey. Well, to my watch, said Tim, it's 9 o'clock. He should be here in a couple of minutes. Oh, said Harvey. Well, I doubt you're going to be there on time. He's always kind of late. I've kind of realized that too, said Tim. So, what are you doing today? Oh, just my regular job, said Harvey. And what would be that? Oh, you know, of course, said Harvey. Picking up after the engines, doing all that stuff. Waiting for an accident to happen, then I come to the rescue. I'm like Superman, because I'm an engine. Or I could be Super Train. That's a nice name, said Tim. Got any favorites today? Well, said Harvey, James is pulling a goods train. They're all full of troublesome trucks. Oh, said Tim. You're choosing him as your favorite? Yep, said Harvey. Henry should be here by now. I wonder where he is. I haven't seen him all day, but he should be coming here soon. Whoa, what's that? Said Tim. Just then, Big Al roared in with a monstrous car. What the heck is that? Asked Tim. Oh, this, said Al. It's B4. It's called B4. It's my new invention. Oh, and I guess its sister is but after, said Tim. Harvey and Tim laughed, but Al didn't think it was so funny. This is serious, he said. Look, this car is amazing. I can see that, he said. How long did it take you to build that? I'm not sure. Well, maybe 1 to 2 months. 1 to 2 months? I thought that was to be your vacation to Costa Rica. I know, but I've changed my mind, said Al. I decided to spend my money on this, not the vacation. Oh, said Tim. Well, hey, could I take a ride in it? Sure, said Tim. Come on. And so, Tim was very excited, and he hopped in. Ooh, he said, this is a nice ride you got here. Thank you, he said. Well, I'll see you later, Harvey, he said. Okay, said Harvey, and Big Al roared away. Just then, Henry puffed up. Oh, man, he said, late again. Oh, why can I never be on time? But Harvey knew why. Big Al and Tim roared in the B4. Just then they came to the station. Well, said Thomas, that's a sweet ride you got there, Al. Thanks, said Al. Wow, that's impressive. You make Bertie look like a piece of scrap. Tim and Al and Thomas laughed, but Bertie didn't think it was so funny. He said. So, where are we going next? Said Tim. Oh, said Al, I'm going to pick up Gerald. Where is he at? Oh, I think he's right there. And of course, Gerald was at his train business. He was talking to the Flying Scotsman. And you know what I mean, he said. You're the Flying Scotsman. You should have more respect for a person like me. You do not know how old I am. Oh, sorry, he said. Hey, said Al, give the engine a break. Look what I've created here. Oh, yeah, that's fancy. Whoa, that's impressive. Oh, thank you. Can I take a ride in that? Oh, sure. Knock yourself out. So Gerald hopped in. Man, this ride's nice. See you, Flying Scotsman. And Flying Scotsman was glad to be left in peace. Where are we going now? Asked Gerald. We're going to go pick up Clayton. He's at the Sawyer airfield. Okay, they said. Hurry, this ride's awesome. They passed over the track. And there stood Clayton. Wow, he said. Nice ride you got there. Can I come? Sure, he said. That's why we invited you. Okay, said Clayton. I'm there. And this ride's sweet, dude. What's it called? The B4. Huh, and your next ride's gonna be the after? Oh, be quiet, he said. Where are we even going, asked Tim. We're gonna go on an adventure. Huh, he said, very funny. Seriously, where are we going? We're going on a vacation, basically. Vacation? Well, Al, you know we all can't afford a vacation. You're the richest one here. I know, said Al. I used the rest of my money I was going to spend on my Costa Rica vacation to pay for the expenses. Where are we going? We're going to visit the Six Worlds. Ha, 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 they laughed. Seriously, where are we going to go? I told you, the Six Worlds. Okay, we're kind of confused. What's that? Well, let me tell you, he said. The Six Worlds are all made up of the solar system. Okay, they said. More information, please? Well, he said, to get into them, you need flaps. And I believe there's a flap on the island of Soda. Is it like a transportation unit? Asked Clayton. Yes, said Al. Oh, just like the magic buffers. Well, if you want to put it that way, yes. Okay, anyway, I believe the flap is behind the sheds here. Okay, said the engines, said the people. And see, if we just sit here for a while, until a specific time, we could transfer into the other world. What time were we supposed to be here? Well, according to my calculations, it's supposed to be 9:26 and 37 seconds. I have 9:26 and 22 seconds. Okay, then we should be whizzing away soon. They waited and waited. Is it going to come? 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, the world around me began to shift. Whoa, whoa, became all blurry. Oh, they said. Oh no! And suddenly there was a big flash of light.
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that trip down memory lane. As you can see, I'm playing it again, but with no audio. I set the layout up here, to look like any ordinary busy day on Sodor. For some reason, I put a hill in right there. There normally wasn't a hill on the layout. I bet you guys had a big laugh while watching that video because, it's really cringy to me. And it was probably cringy watching this, but, I did all this stuff back then without a script. It was just ad-libbing. It was me coming along and just saying whatever came to mind. So, of course, I was stuttering here and there. This is the first scene where Harvey and Tim are talking. It's kind of implied that Tim and Harvey know each other, or they've known each other for a long time, and they're good friends. And, they're talking about, why is Henry late or something, and You can clearly see Henry in the background. So Tim is, like I mentioned before the video, he's your everyday average man. He doesn't really have any faults per se. He's just, you know, your basis. He's sort of the, I don't know, the baseline, whereas the other three characters are going to be really crazy and kooky. He's just the normal guy. So I did this creative thing where I set the camera on the ground like this, and I was thinking it would focus on both of them and then I wouldn't have to move the camera back and forth, but it didn't do that. It focuses on Henry in the background. I mean, you can get a nice, cool shot of my room because I wasn't very aware back then of what I was showing. But, oh yeah, he's talking about James. There's a panda trash can over there. I mean, it's pretty crazy. This was all 10 years ago. And I had a really weird bed at the time where that ladder you see in the background, it was like a bunk bed, but the bottom bunk was a desk area, and I don't have that bed anymore, thank goodness. But if you're wondering, you know, this is my room, and if you're wondering where the bed is, well, the bed is up the ladder there. So, yeah, here comes the B4, the letter B and the number 4. And it was created by Big Al. And I think Tim and Al, I think I got those names from the show Home Improvement, where the protagonists' names are Tim for Tim Allen, who's a, you know, an actor, a comedian. And then his assistant on his show, in the show, is Al. So I think that's where I got those names from. Obviously, I was super creative back then. So you don't really get to see it in this first video, but Al is like a mad scientist. He's always cooking up things. I think I just watched Back to the Future before I saw this, so I kind of took inspiration for Doc Emmett Brown from Back to the Future as sort of an Al, you know, character. So Al ends up building this really, it's almost like a, you know, this massive car that seats 3 people back there. It's made out of Legos. And then I had an issue here. I'm trying to put Tim in the car, and Tim's arms wouldn't fold down. So I had to take him off screen and move his arms, and then I got him to stick. And I'm still trying to get him in the car, but that's just how it was back then. Didn't have time for reshoots. We didn't have the budget for reshoots. So this Lego car, even after I had filmed this, you know, episode, so to speak, I kept that Lego car the way it was for a really long time. And then somewhere along the line, I think it was when I gave away the rest of my Legos, I just, you know, took it apart and everything. But I had it sitting downstairs in my basement for a while just because, it, you know, I thought it was a cool car. It's just made out of Legos, you know, whereas the driver, Al, sits kind of on the lower section. The passengers sit up higher, kind of like a double-decker bus. It's got a cool wing on the back. We get an interaction with Thomas and Bertie here. Yeah, nothing really else to say. I mean, you know, I was doing this with no script. I was just ad-libbing it, really saying whatever came to my mind. And, of course, there's grammatical errors and there's mess-ups, but it's, you know, YouTube was a very different time back then where this stuff would basically fly. So they're going to find Gerald, which is a very old guy. There he is with the Flying Scotsman. He's just old, and he, you know, I think somewhere along the line, I mentioned in the video that he likes trains, but he would have worked. Maybe he was a driver of one of the trains, or maybe he's a train historian, something like that. But basically, he's an old guy who just likes looking at trains, but the problem is he bugs them. So the Flying Scotsman here is, you know, trying to take a rest, and Gerald is bugging them. You know, he's being really annoying about it. So that was supposed to, you know, that's what that's supposed to represent. So Gerald hops in. It's really just a sort of story where this guy's like, hey, I'm going on an adventure. You want to come with me? And these guys are like, sure. So they go to the airfield after this and pick up Clayton, which I mentioned before you watched the video. He's actually had just gotten out of prison or something like that. You know, he's a much younger guy, whereas everybody else is a bit older. I would say, you know, Clayton is in his 20s or so. And I gotta, you know, you got to take the standing Lego figure and maneuver it into the sitting Lego figure so that he sits in the back. I really don't remember a whole lot about this video, you know, other than it was supposed to be part of a series. And like I mentioned before the video began, or before this clip began, I think in one of the worlds, Al was going to fall off a cliff and die, and then everybody was going to like freak out. They're like, okay, the guy that invented this car just is gone. Like, how do we get back to Sodor? That sort of thing. But then he comes back in another one of the worlds, And like, you know, with any story, there's conflict and they have to, you know, overcome adversity. And I'm, you know, I can't think of anything major that pops in my head when I think about this series, other than the first episode here would start off on Sodor, and then they go through something called a flap, which is actually just like a wormhole, and it pops up at specific times, and somehow Al knows when this wormhole is going to appear, and that's how they travel around to the different worlds. So I don't really remember if there was going to be a specific villain or not. I kind of remember thinking maybe Al was going to be the villain because, you know, the guys are going to be mad at him after Al fell off this cliff, and then he comes back and he's totally fine, whereas they thought he was dead and all this sort of thing. So I obviously never, you know, got along to filming any of the other episodes for this series, but they make it to the back of the sheds where Al says that there's going to be, I call it a flap, but it's really just a wormhole or like a transportation system where you somehow jump to another world. And the best part about it is the transition I used, you'll see here in a moment. I just point the camera down to my white sock, and that's supposed to represent like a white transition to the next world. And that's just how it was going to be. And obviously very low budget, and oh, like there's an earthquake happening because the flap just opened and I'm shaking the camera, and then, where is it? There it is. I just point the camera to my foot, and that's the transition. So, oh yeah, that was a trip down memory lane. It's embarrassing to watch just because, I don't know. I mean, at least I was being creative, but it's obviously not my best work, and I would kind of hope it's not my best work. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was pretty cringy to watch for me, but nevertheless, feel free to put your thoughts about any of the videos in this series. Feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will, you know, take them into consideration. Obviously, none of these videos are ever going to happen again, but instead of just keeping them on my computer forever, I thought I would at least show them off, and we can kind of look at them and watch them and cringe together. So that is the Thomas/Lego video. I never had an official title for the series, but yeah, it was one of my more ambitious projects during this time, considering the previous videos I've showed you have been really short and sweet. That video is almost 8 minutes long, or it's, you know, 7 minutes long, which is pretty long in duration for me at this time. Let's move on to a lighter and more familiar type of video. This clip is titled George the Steamroller, which was the original pilot for my Thomas Wooden Railway series. Now, before watching this clip, and I'm going to, you know, commentate along the way, it doesn't have any audio because at the time I was still really frustrated that I couldn't, you know, that the audio was super bad, so I could go around, you know, talking things out like I did in the previous Lego video, but I thought for the first episode of my series, I'll try something different. So what I did is I filmed this episode with no speaking, no dialogue, no narration, and instead what I did is I just acted out what was happening on screen, and then I put the sort of stage directions or what the characters were saying to each other in the description, which is really weird. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I, for some reason, thought it was a good idea. So the idea is that you'd watch the video and then you'd open up the description and sort of read along. It was like you're kind of watching a play or something like that. And YouTube used to be formatted differently so that it was actually easy to open up the description and follow along while watching a video. Obviously, nowadays, the YouTube like actual screen where the video plays is much bigger, so it wouldn't work as well. But yeah, this is titled George the Steamroller, which was the original pilot for my series. I'm going to start the video now. And I think, based off of my very faint memory, it has a very similar plot to a later episode of my series that was conveniently titled George the Steamroller. And here it starts off and it's like George lives under this bridge. He doesn't like the engines. He thinks they're dumb, as we see Fergus fall off the track there because the switch isn't set right. So, again, the description that I'm giving you guys was actually in the physical description in the video. So we go along here, we meet Boko. I haven't actually watched this video in a while, so I'm thinking, George is like, engines are stupid, you're stupid. Boko's like, no, we're not stupid. You shouldn't, you know, Boko would say something wise. I'm just guessing. Again, there's no audio here, or there is the audio, but it's the really poor audio, and I'm not saying anything. And Boko rolls away. So I don't really know what conversation happened there because I don't have any notes about, you know, what I was trying to say. I think he then, he meets up with Boko, and Boko says, don't be so mean to the engines, and then he meets up with Butch, and he's like, as a fellow road vehicle, what do you think about this, Butch? And of course, Butch is very optimistic, and he's like, engines aren't stupid, you should try being nicer to them, that sort of thing. It doesn't go over well, I'm guessing. So then I pick up George, and I make a bold move across my layout, because this is what I had to do back then. And so I'm guessing this is a couple days later. George wants to show the engines that he's the boss. Here comes Duck. I think I later reused this same style of accident in a different episode. But he's coming down the rails, and George is just sitting on the track, and he forces Duck to crash into the, I think that's the useful engine shed or the special engine shed. And there's a big accident. And the roof collapses. That's all because George was sitting on the tracks, and Duck did that to avoid an accident. So George at this point is just trolling the engines. The engines obviously don't like it. And I think one of the reasons why this didn't become the official pilot for my series is that I wanted the pilot to be about Thomas, because it is a Thomas Wooden Railway series, and I'm sure the engines are talking about George right here, and obviously Thomas appears, but he wasn't the main character. So Toby has Henrietta with him, and he has to leave to go take a train, I think is the discussion that went on there. But then George is going to be cheeky, and he's like, okay, I'll just do the same thing. I'll come and stop on the tracks. You can't do anything about it. But Toby, because he has a cowcatcher and side plates, he can come along. Oh, I thought he was actually going to hit him. But George actually moves out of the way so that he doesn't get hit, but then he topples over as he comes off the tracks. And I believe if you go back and watch the George the Steamroller episode from Season 3, as all the engines laugh, I believe that part of the episode remains the same. I mean, I'm guessing there are some similarities, but I haven't watched this episode in a while, and I haven't watched the, later release version. So there's probably a nice little compromise here where it's like, after that day, George learned not to be mean to the engines, and it ends with this extremely close-up shot of George that I thought wouldn't be blurry for some reason. So that's the original George the Steamroller pilot. Like I mentioned, I later adapted it into a Season 3 episode. Some things stayed the same, some things didn't. Off the top of my head, I know that George lives under that same bridge in the new episode, and Toby's involved in the climax there, but probably there's some significant differences, and the big difference is that I didn't record any audio or narration for the episode. I was just going to let the description do the talking, if that makes sense. So, a bit of a weird way to do an episode. I remember the feedback, though, at the time was pretty positive. People were like, yeah, it's an interesting way to do an episode, but, I'd like to see more, that sort of thing. So that gave me some encouragement, but I never made an episode with that style of filming and formatting ever again. It's time to move on to a much clearer video clip. We are past those really weird beginning days of my channel where I was just kind of making any style of video that I wanted to, and then one day I just woke up and was fed up with the way everything was going, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to delete everything, start anew, and that's where my original, or that's, where the episode, The Trouble with Trucks, comes along. That's where the start of my series began. And this next clip is actually a blooper from an episode. I believe it's called Twin Trouble. It's with Bill and Ben. And this is unique because at the time, I would mess up all the time while filming episodes, but I never kept any of the bloopers. But for some reason, I kept this very short blooper. It's only 17 seconds long. It's from the very start of the episode because at the time, I would film all of my episodes in one shot, which was really challenging, but cool in a sense. So let me play this blooper, and as you'll kind of see, I just stumble over my words at the end of the clip and decide to start over since we're only 17 seconds into the episode. So here it is.
Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 21, Twin Trouble. Bill and Ben are twin tank engines that work on Sir Topham Hatt's Sodor Railway. They are commonly found working together, and they love to work together.
So yeah, I just stumbled over my words right there, and I thought, you know what, we're only 17 seconds into a brand new episode, let me just stop it and start over, and that's usually what I did. If I messed up in like the first minute or so, I would just kind of take a rain check and be like, okay, let's start from the top, not that big of a deal. But if I made a mistake or kind of, stumbled over myself later in the episode, I would try my best to recover from it because I just spent, 7, 8, 9 minutes on an episode and I didn't want to just have to throw it away at the very end. So, like I said, it's a very unique blooper because I don't save all the I do now because I make an individual video out of them, but at the time I never saved these types of mistakes or anything like that. I just deleted them and moved on. So for some reason it's made it through years of me going out over all these old clips, and I decided to keep it for some reason. So bit of an interesting video clip, but it just shows that nobody's perfect, and that's definitely me. Alright, time for another pilot episode of a series that never was. This was going to be sort of a vlog series in a sense, but this was before vlogs were like really, really popular. It was going to be a discussion series where I would have people send in, comments or questions about me as a person or my series, and obviously I kind of restrict what personal information I give out at the time. This video I have it titled on my computer here as Roundhouse Discussion Episode 1, and the title of the series was going to be called Roundhouse Discussion. And like I said, it was going to be sort of a Q&A series where people would send me questions and I'd answer them. And I don't really know what I was going to do with this series. I don't believe I ever uploaded this to YouTube. I'd be shocked if I did, just because by the time it came around to uploading it, I wasn't really interested in doing this series anymore. But I'm going to let you listen to the original raw audio from the episode. I kind of briefly describe Roundhouse Discussion, and the question that gets asked is, what is my favorite engine? And surprisingly, I answered Oliver. A lot of people know nowadays my favorite engine far and away is Edward, which you see off to the side there. But at the time, I don't know, I was feeling a little bit sorry for Oliver since he hadn't appeared in a long time. And the reason I have Edward, and I think that's Douglas and Mavis and Duke, beside Oliver there, is that, those are my other sort of runner-up engines to the question. So I'll let you listen to the original Roundhouse Discussion Episode 1 video, and then I'll make some small comments after that.
Roundhouse Discussion, Episode 1. Welcome to the first episode of Roundhouse Discussion, and I'm your host, Keekre24. Today's question was provided by Sonic and Thomas. His question was, what is your favorite train on Thomas and Friends? Well, Sonic and Thomas, my favorite engine on Thomas and Friends has to be Oliver. He has always been a very useful engine, and he's been on Soder. And he has also been a very kind engine, too. He has many good friends, such as Thomas, Duck, and his faithful brake van, Toad. He is a great Western engine, which makes him different from all the other engines, except for Toad and Duck. And he has always been a very hard worker, and I like that in an engine. Unfortunately, Oliver has not been seen since Season 7 in Thomas and Friends, so we have not seen what his personality has turned out to be. However, I hope he is still kind, useful, and a hard worker. As for myself, I have the old style Oliver pictured here, and it is used in my series, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures. I also have the new style of Oliver, pictured here. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Sonic and Thomas, and thanks for watching.
So as you can see, it's very reminiscent of a Q&A style video that I've done a couple of times in the past. However, every single question that people would send in would be their own video. And I don't know, maybe I was thinking about creating a new channel where this stuff would go on. I can't really imagine myself trying to upload these styles of videos while I'm uploading videos of my series. I don't know, why that is, but fun fact, you can kind of see my Thomas the Tank Engine Railway series book in the background if you look really hard throughout the episode. Just sort of in the back there, you can even see a couple of different books as well. But, the question was, what's your favorite engine? And then I, since I am a Thomas Wooden Railway YouTube user, I pulled out, showed off my old style Oliver and then the new style Oliver that I had at the time. And that was really just the whole point of the series. So nothing too fancy there. I remember I don't know why I kept this specific clip, just because I thought, maybe I'll show it off one day, which is what I'm doing now. But this was actually filmed somewhere, I want to say around July 2008. towards the end of season 2 of my series. Because I was debating if I remember thinking this, I was debating if I wanted to wait until I moved down to the basement for season 3 to start this series, or if I was going to continue it up here. So it was filmed around that time, around July, maybe even early August of 2008, but it obviously only lasted 1 episode, which was fine with me. I don't think it had a lot of potential, but at one point I guess I was pretty serious about doing a Q&A series, because I ended up making a video like this one about it. If there's one specific clip that I've been waiting to show off for a couple of years now, it's been this next one. This is actually the original episode 29 of my series, which is the second to last episode of season 2, and it was titled Gordon and the Tunnel. I know, not a very creative title, but let me explain the history of this episode. The current episode 29 that is on my channel and part of my series is called The Daring Duel. And it's an episode where basically Spencer and Gordon race, and of course there's a big crash at the end and they get reprimanded. And I filmed that episode, but then right as I was about to upload it, I was contacted by a user named TrainsareCool2, which was one of the very first Thomas Wooden Railway YouTubers I watched back in the summer of 2007. I got to know him pretty well, and I actually believe he's still active on some form of social media. Maybe it's Twitter. I don't think his channel's active anymore, but basically what happened to TrainsareCool2 is he made a lot of videos in 2007, and then he dropped off the face of the earth and he wasn't really around for 2008. However, he had just come back and was looking to make an episode of his series, or it was a one-off episode, something like that. And he actually contacted me and he was like, hey, do you have a plot that I can use for an episode of my series? And I don't remember the specific conversation, but in the end, I ended up loaning him the plot from The Daring Duel, which is an episode where Gordon and Spencer raced. And what he did is he went on his layout and ended up filming the episode, and he put in some cool music, and I think it might have been stop motion even. But he basically made the episode for himself, which was fine because he asked for it and I gave him that. However, I didn't want to now upload my version of The Daring Duel because it would look like I was copying him. So what I ended up doing is on my original Keekre24 account during the summer of 2008, I actually uploaded this version of episode 29, which is called Gordon in the Tunnel. And I'll let you guys watch the full episode here in a sec. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, Gordon gets spooked. He thinks there's something in a tunnel, and Duck comes along, and needless to say, there's a really big crash. So actually, when you were watching my channel during this time, during 2008, it would have been really weird because I would have gone from like episode 27 and 28, which were filmed in my room. All of a sudden, I would just jump downstairs without notice to an unfamiliar location with really strange yellow carpet, and I would film episode 29, Gordon in the Tunnel, down there. And then I'd jump back upstairs and film episode 30, which happened to be the season 2 finale. Then I would upload the season 3 update, and then I think I'd go on to Toad Stands By, Remake, and Cranky Bugs, all of which were filmed in my basement. So I'm guessing the very limited viewership I had at the time probably were very confused about what was going on. But the reason I did that is because I didn't want to, you know, be accused of copying TrainsareCool2, so I made a last-minute adjustment. And by the time, I should say this, you know, by the time it came to upload The Daring Duel, I had already moved all my stuff down into the basement. And it's on this one layout that I used for the second layout video that I ever made. It's this layout. And then I also filmed Toad Stands By on this layout. And I filmed episode 40 for some reason. I guess I knew what I wanted to do with episode 40 way back then. And so I filmed that episode. And it was a good layout, but it was just very weird because I filmed just some really random things on it. But anyway, I'm going to let you watch the episode, and then I'll just make some final comments at the end here.
Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 29, Gordon and the Tunnel. Gordon was in a bad mood that morning. Thomas and Percy had decided to come to the shed and tell stories all night. They had promised to be quiet, but in the end they ended up telling all their favorite stories through the entire night. All the engines at the shed were very annoyed by them. They talked late into the night, and all the engines were very annoyed. Finally, they fell asleep, and the engines got some peace and quiet, but it wasn't for long. When dawn broke the next morning, they began talking again, and finally, the engines had had enough. "Can you go somewhere else and talk?" said Emily. "Why?" said the two tank engines. "We're having fun here." "But we're trying to sleep," said James. "It's dawn. You guys should have slept all night." "We didn't," said Arthur. "You guys kept us up." "Oh, we're sorry," said Thomas and Percy. "So move along," said Emily. "We're very tired of your behavior." "Aw," they said. "Can't we do one more story?" "That's it," said Arthur. "Get out of here. We're tired of you." And the two engines scuttled away. "You didn't have to be that mean, Arthur," said Henry. "I know," said Arthur, "but I got no sleep last night. It's very annoying." "I know. We all know," said James. "None of us got sleep. And Gordon, you look the worst." "Oh, I'm sorry," he said. "Ugh, I'm very tired." "I am too," said Emily. "I'm sorry I got so mad, guys," he said. "But I'm tired of hearing the same stories. We heard them all night. I think we get the point that Percy didn't look after a danger sign, and he fell into the ocean, and Thomas once fell down the mine. The end." Now the engines all had to agree. "Gordon," said James, "aren't you supposed to be pulling the express today?" "No," said Gordon. "I don't think I am." "Then who is?" said James. "I'm not really sure, but it's not me today. I don't know what I'm doing." Just then James's driver walked up. "We're pulling the express today," he said. "Yay," said James. "That'll be very fun." Let's get on our way," he said, and James puffed away. Soon Gordon's driver arrived. Gordon, he said, "we're pulling trucks today." "Trucks," said Gordon. "This is an outrage," he said. "So TATMR has turned a very nice express engine into a truck-pulling idiot." "Ugh," he said. "I won't do it." "You have to," said his driver. "It's Sir Topham Hatt's orders." "Ugh," said Arthur. "Sir Topham Hatt's orders. Blah, 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 blah." "He's kind of ruining the railway," said Henry. "He's giving us all these weird jobs." "Yeah," said Emily. "He made me pull milk yesterday. And I've only pulled trucks and coaches before. I didn't even know how to pull them." "They're the same as trucks," said Arthur. "It's not that hard." Well, said Gordon's driver, "we better get on our way," he said. "We don't want to be late." "I guess you're right," he said. Gordon spun around on the turntable, and he puffed away. He came to the turntable, and Oliver and Stepney were there. "Hey, guys," he said. "What's going on?" "Oh, nothing much," said Stepney. "I didn't sleep a wink last night," said Oliver. "Me either," said Gordon. "I guess we're kind of in the same boat." "Yeah," said Oliver. Man, Sir Topham Hatt is working this very hard these last couple of days." "Yeah," said Stepney. "I think he's under a lot of pressure, with the Flying Scotsman leaving and everything." "Yeah," said Oliver. "That's probably it." "What do you have to do today?" asked Gordon. "Oh," said Oliver, "I have to shut these trucks at the docks. Look, they're everywhere. I don't think I'll be able to get through them all in one day." "Don't worry," said Gordon. "You're lucky. I'm pulling trucks." "Oh, pulling trucks," said Oliver. "You're so lucky. I'd rather do that than this." "Oh, I know," said Gordon, "but I'm very unlucky. I've never pulled trucks before." "Yeah, you have," said Stepney. "Well, I don't really consider it that. I consider it Sir Topham Hatt's work." "Ah, I see what you mean," said Stepney. "And also, I'm tired of pulling this fossil car around. I want to pull a train, some trucks, or anything." "I'd love to pull the fossil car," said Oliver. "Well, how about you guys switch jobs?" "No, we can't," said Stepney. "Why can't you?" said Gordon. "Sir Topham has made a rule. We can't change jobs unless he approves of it. And so far, he hasn't approved of any of the jobs." "Oh, I see your dilemma there," said Gordon. "Anyway, I'd better be off," he said. "Goodbye," and he puffed away. He came to a tunnel. "What time is our train due?" asked Gordon. 11, said his driver. "But what is it, like 9 or so?" "It's 9:25. "Well, see, we have a ton of time. Can't we just explore the island?" "Okay," said his driver. "Hey, look, a tunnel." "Whoa," he said, "there's something in it, I think." "Nonsense," said his driver. "There's nothing in it, Gordon. Now come on, let's go." But Gordon wasn't so sure. There seemed like there was something in it. "I swear," he said, "there is something in it. I'm not moving from this spot until I figure out what it is." "Okay," said his driver. "Come on, firemen, let's go investigate." And they walked in. Unfortunately, Gordon didn't know that the lack of sleep was playing with his mind. There really wasn't anything in the tunnel, but he was imagining things. Just then, Duck the Great Western engine puffed up. He was pulling a coach. "Excuse me," he said. "I'm sorry," said Gordon. "My driver and fireman are expecting the tunnel." "Well, they better hurry up," he said. "I'll be coming by in a few minutes," he said. So be on your way." "Oh, we will," they said. "We won't be here long." His driver and fireman walked out. "Gordon," they said, "there's nothing in there. We promise you." "I don't think so," said Gordon. "There has to be." "Nonsense," said the driver and fireman. "Oh, let's just give it a shot," said the driver. "We'll go check one more time." "Okay," said Gordon, and he waited patiently. Meanwhile, Duck was pulling his train. Gordon in the tunnel? I don't get it. Gordon imagines things too much. It's very annoying sometimes. He went over the turntable, and he saw in the distance Gordon was still there. "What the heck?" said Duck. "He's still there. He should be done by now." His driver and fireman had just walked out. "Gordon," they said, "there is nothing in there. We can promise you that." "I'm not so sure," he said. "Come on," said the driver. "If there is something in there, you need to face your fears. Come on." "Okay," he said, and he inched forward. "Hey," he said, "there really is nothing in here. I was being a scaredy cat all along." Unfortunately, the signalman had also had lack of sleep, and so he dozed off at his post and accidentally hit a switch, which switched the points. One minute Gordon was on the rails, and next he was on the ground. "Oh," he said, "ouch, that hurt." "Oh my gosh," he said, "that really did hurt." His driver and fireman jumped out. "Oh no," they said, "look, Duck's coming. This isn't going to be good." Duck zoomed around. "Watch out," he said. "I'm going to crash into you." "Oh no," he said, "my tender's still on the line." "Oh no, oh!" And Duck smashed into his tender. "Oh," said Duck, "look, and I propped up against this thing here. I must look very silly." "You do," said Gordon. "You aren't supposed to agree." "Oh, sorry," he said. "Anyway, what were you doing? I told you to move out of the way before I went all around the island of Soda and came back here." "I'm sorry," said Gordon, and he told him the story. "Oh, I see," said Duck. You thought something was in there." "Oh, I understand," he said. "Okay," said Gordon. "You know," said Duck, you shouldn't have really been that silly. I mean, if you had the lack of sleep, you should have kicked Thomas and Percy out." "We did," said Gordon. "What time?" Like 6 in the morning." "Oh," said Duck. "Well, see, there's your problem right there." "Okay," said Gordon. "Now I know what to do." And Gordon really did know what to do.
So yeah, that is Gordon and the Tunnel, the original episode 29 of my series. When it came time to re-upload all of my episodes for my series after I had been hacked and I was on this new account called Thomas Wooden Railway, I elected to, use the original episode 29, The Daring Duel, because one, I thought it was a superior episode, and two, I don't think Trains Are Cool 2 had his version of that episode up anymore. So, and it just made a lot more sense to, use that original episode that was filmed up in my room because, it just makes sense visually and the story's a lot better versus me jumping down to the basement all of a sudden and filming this very last, second episode that I'm sure was a season 3 episode that I just bumped up to season 2. But since the original episode 29, The Daring Duel, is now on YouTube, I never had any use for this episode. I guess I could have uploaded it at the same time as I was re-uploading The Daring Duel as sort of a double feature, or just to let people know, hey, at one point this was the original episode 29. I just elected not to do that, and I don't really regret it because, it's just one of those things that it's a big deal at the time, but here we are 10 years later and nobody even knows about it. So I thought I would just show you guys what Gordon in the Tunnel looked like. It's sort of a forgotten or lost episode of my series that at one point was live on YouTube for many, many months, from about July or August of 2008 to January 2009, but hasn't seen the light of day until now. So I'm glad at least I get to show it off to some people who might be interested in it. This clip compilation video has been going on for a really long time, and I appreciate it if you stuck around for all this while. I know the majority of my viewers won't find any of this interesting. It's hard to believe that there are some viewers of mine out there who weren't even alive when these videos were made. But let's just watch a really fun video together here. This is a video I filmed back on my primary season 3 layout, if that makes sense. And as I start the video here, you're going to notice that it's my cats running around on my layout, which is sort of a weird video. I took a lot of pictures of them during this time. That orange cat is named Pumpkin, and that white cat is named Patch. And they were chasing a fly around my basement. And the white cat, Patch, was making all these weird noises. You can hear her meowing in the background. I've tried to just, downplay the audio as much as I can. I don't know, they were just being really weird, and I thought, it's like, you know what, I'll film some of this stuff. So you can see the season 3 layout in the background there, whereas then it only took up a small portion of my basement. Now it takes up the entire basement and more. So this white cat is trying to catch a fly that is flying around, and later in the video you'll actually see the fly. Sorry for just the shaky video. Here in a bit you'll understand why. Patch is actually still alive to this very day. She is my primary helper when it comes to filming things. Pumpkin has since passed away. She was a great kitty. So watching this video, seeing Patch as her younger self, seeing Pumpkin as her younger self, it's just a nice video. But Patch is obviously more interested in finding out where this fly went than Pumpkin is. Pumpkin's just kind of watching, and, it's just amusing for her. So here, sorry, for some reason I didn't move to get a better angle, but I zoom in on Patch, who then walks behind this table. You can kind of see in the background where I put my extra engines and stuff that I don't need. Sorry, so I've zoomed in for some reason. It's shaky. Okay, and then the fly flies really low right there, and then Patch pounces on it. So then I move. You can actually see a little bit of black right there. And Patch almost had it, but she's an indoor house cat, and she's not that good at catching things, so she lets it get away. And I thought, oh man, I thought Patch was going to get it. And then we do this really funny close-up of Pumpkin. Pumpkin was a really pretty cat. She's not worried about the fly, she's more worried about the camera, and then she walks away, because that's just how she was. But yeah, the only reason I elected to show you guys this video clip is that it's somehow Thomas related. And then I end the video here just, showing Patch's wiggling tail for some reason. So it was a spur of the moment thing. I was just in the basement probably getting ready to film, and they kept making noise, and I couldn't shoo them away. So I just, filmed them what they were doing, and that was that. So definitely a little fun video that I just ended up filming one of these days, somewhere around the season 3 era. If somebody's really interested, you could probably look at the specific locations of the engines and the rolling stock and see what episode it was. I really don't know, but it was probably around August or September of 2008. We are going to jump all the way from August or September 2008 to about November or December 2008 for my next video clip. This was when I was filming Thomas and the Magic Railroad remake, which is a pretty ambitious remake for me at the time. It was filmed on this big layout that I used not only for the Thomas and the Magic Railroad remake, but also for The Strange Case of Splatter and Dodge, which is Thomas and the Magic Railroad related, and then also a movie called Battle of the Branch Lines, and then, to top it all off, the first half of season 6 of my series. So I definitely think this was around November or December 2008. It was just whenever I uploaded the Thomas and the Magic Railroad remake. There's one scene in the movie where there's a character called Billy Two Feathers, I want to say, and he is the engineer or the conductor of the actual physical train that is used in that one real life shot of Shining Time Station. And then there's him, Billy Two Feathers, and Mr. Conductor have a short interaction. And I thought it would just be so funny that instead of creating a Billy figure, I would bring in Billy the Orange Tank Engine as sort of Billy's Two Feathers substitute, and then I would, kind of remake the episode or remake the scene as if nothing was wrong. I never intended on uploading this clip. It was just something I was doing for fun while I was filming this big Thomas and the Magic Railroad remake. So it's a bit weird because it's an engine who's supposed to be a human having a conversation with another human who's actually this wooden figure that I used for Mr. Conductor. So maybe you'll find this entertaining, maybe you won't. I'll let you listen to the raw audio. I don't think I'll get a copyright strike for doing this. Hopefully I won't, but if I do, then it's all your guys' fault. Just kidding, it's my fault. But just a really random video I decided to film. Never had any intentions of releasing it or anything like that, but I thought I would show you guys nonetheless. So here it is.
Well, hello, Mr. Conductor. Oh, hello, Billy. Toolkit, check. Ticket puncher, check, check. Aye, 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 aye. All aboard! Just testing, Billy. Mustn't let my conducting skills get rusty. Important day, Mr. C?
It is a very important day. I'm going to the island of Sodor. You know, it's the only place in my universe where I really fit in size-wise. So Duncan has given me a big responsibility. Diesel 10 is back, and I have to make sure that he behaves himself. Excuse me, Billy.
I hope your visit goes well, Mr. C.
Thank you. I must be responsible, reliable, and... Don't tell me. Really useful. I knew that.
So yeah, it's a pretty weird remake, not gonna lie. Don't really know what my intention was. It was just, you know, me connecting the dots and saying, oh, there's no Billy Two Feathers Wooden Railway figure, but there is a Billy the Engine model, so I'll just combine the two, and that will be that. So hope you've enjoyed that small little video clip. I believe that's actually the last, it is the last behind the scenes or special hidden video that I have from my so-called Keekre24 days. This was back in, you know, November, December 2008. My account would get hacked in 2009. And so then every video you see from this point was filmed during my Thomas Wooden Railway time. And some of these upcoming videos made it into the or onto the channel. Some of them didn't, but instead of me talking, how about I just show you those videos instead? So let's get started. So after my Keekre24 account was hacked in January 2009, I was really distraught and didn't know what to do with my series or any of my videos. I thought for a while that I was just going to quit YouTube because it's like all that hard work I did for a while just ended up accumulating into nothing. So really didn't know what I was going to do with the future. But what I ended up doing is I ended up packing all of my Thomas stuff that was in the basement, and I ended up moving up back up to my room where I had filmed seasons 1 and 2. Now, as you'll notice here in these next couple of videos, or several videos I should say, you know, I started out my YouTube career up in my room, but then I bounced down to my basement, and then I bounced back up in around January 2009, and there's a couple more instances throughout my YouTube career where I'm back up in my room, and the reason I do that is because while my basement is much bigger, and obviously I have to film in my basement nowadays just because of all the stuff I have, back then, you know, I had enough, or I didn't have as much stuff, and it could actually conveniently fit in my room really well. And I liked filming in my room better because I thought the lighting was a lot better than it was in my basement. The basement, it was all yellow, whereas there was a lot of natural sunlight coming in through the window in my room here. So that's why I was always so indecisive about where I wanted to film. I decided after much thought, after my account was hacked, that I wasn't, at this moment, I wasn't going to re-upload all of my previous videos that I made, and I had made like, you know, over 100 videos. I wanted to get those back on YouTube one day, but I thought for the moment I am just going to kind of reboot my channel. Again, I'm on the Thomas Wooden Railway channel at this point. I was on the NW Brig Van account for a while, but I never released anything there. So I thought the first video that I'll release for sort of this brand new channel and to sort of, you know, to try to get some of my audience back, the first video I'll release is a Thomas Wooden Railway collection video because, I mean, that's just what you have to do. So it's a nice look at everything I had gotten up to this point. Whereas, you know, we took a look at the original collection video that I uploaded to my channel sometime around April, May, June or rather, May or June 2008. This is now January or February, should be February 2009. So about 9-10 months have passed at this point, and I've gotten some new items. So I'm going to let you listen and watch the original Thomas Wooden Railway collection video that I uploaded to this Thomas Wooden Railway account when I decided to unreboot my channel, if that's the right word, and I decided to just re-upload all of the old stuff that I had previously filmed. I took this collection video down. Maybe I thought, one day I will come along and re-release it, but I haven't done that up until this point. So I'm going to let you listen and watch to this original unreleased Thomas Wooden Railway collection video that was filmed around February 2009.
This is a video about my Thomas Wooden Railway collection, so please enjoy. Here's Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, Toby, Duck, Donald, Douglas, Oliver, Rosie, Mavis, Salty, Diesel, Boko, Daisy, Bill, Ben, Billy, Stepney, Arthur, Murdoch, Harvey, Neil, Derek, Mike, Ari, Bert, Cody, Spencer, Fergus, Wilbur, Frank, Emily, the Diesel, Diesel 199, and the Flying Scotsman. These are my narrow gauge engines: Scarloey, Rheneas, Sir Handel, Peter Sam, Rusty, Duncan, Fearless Freddy, Duke, Mighty, Mac, Ivo Hugh, and Smudger. These are my coaches: Annie, Clarabelle, Henrietta, Old Slow Coach, Catherine, the Express Coaches, the Knapford Express Coach, and the Duke and Duchess's Coach. Here are my Thomas and the Magic Railroad items: Lady, Splatter, Dodge, and Diesel 10. Here are my trucks: Hector, Scruffy, Fred, Troublesome Truck, Giggling Troublesome Truck, Gray Troublesome Truck, Sodor Fossil Car, Sawmill Log Car, Sodor China Clay Cars, 2 Tidmouth Mill Tankers, Sodor Scrap Car, the Duke and Duchess's Furniture Car, Sodor Dairy Cars, Fuel Tanker, Oil Tanker, Cargo Car, Zoo Cars, Petroleum and Oil Car, the Construction Cars, the Sodor Waterworks Cars, Rickety, the Butter Car, Sugar Car, Egg Car, Flour Car, and the Animal Train. These are my cranes: the Breakdown Train, Rocky, and Cranky. Here are my brake vans: Toad, Northwest Brake Van, Sodor Line Caboose, and the Sodor Line Caboose. Here are my road vehicles: Birdie, Trevor, Terence, Butch, Jack, Alfie, Thumper, Bulgy, George, and Lorry 1. Here are my water vehicles, Bulstrode the barge, and the Soder Bay tugboat. And here are my air vehicles, Harold the helicopter, and Tiger Moth the biplane. These are my extra engines. I have the old style Thomas, new style Thomas, new style Thomas, tired out expression Thomas, tired out expression Edward, new style Henry, sad face Henry, new style Toby, new style Oliver, surprised face Spencer, old style Sir Handel, old style Peter Sam, new style Rusty, new style breakdown train, new style Scruffy, and new style Birdie. These are my battery powered engines. I have battery powered Thomas and battery powered James. And these right here are my character cards I've been collecting for a very long time. However, I have not been collecting them ever since I started collecting Thomas. These are just the more recent ones I've gotten. And also, I have some Thomas the Tank Engine items. Now these were at Subway, the restaurant, in the year 2000 in celebration of Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And so, here they are. And they coupled together by going like that. Well, they coupled together. And they made Thomas, Percy, Lady, and Diesel 10. And I also have one Erdl engine, and that is Erdl Diesel 10. So that is my Thomas Wooden Railway collection. Thank you so much for watching.
So it's just like your normal collection video. This wasn't the first time where I had laid the trains out on the tracks like that. You know, I had done the collection video, which is now labeled the very first collection video on my channel, where I filmed it in the basement, and you got to hear my high squeaky voice. And I just kind of did the same layout here. I did change a few things just because of, you know, I was in my room versus my basement. But I remember right after this, I was going to go start working on a layout. I think that's the first thing I did right after this video, is I tore up all the track and put all the engines away and went to work on a layout video. So this collection video, I think at this point I'd been able to realize that collection videos were decently popular. So I was like, you know what, if I'm going to reboot my channel, let me start off with a collection video of my current Thomas collection as it is, you know, as of the upload date, and we'll just go from there. And so this ended up being a collection video that I filmed and later uploaded, but it wasn't on YouTube for very long, because then, sort of like I did with my original Keekre24 account, I just wasn't happy with the videos I was making, and I later decided to remove all of these videos that I made during this time period and instead re-upload the original videos that I made back in like May and June of 2008 onwards. This next video is a cool one. I have labeled it here as the TWR series trailer, and that's really what it was for. For some reason, I didn't make a dedicated layout video for this layout. However, this layout in my room during this time has always been one of my favorites for some reason. I just think it's really cool. But what I ended up doing is I ended up making a trailer for my series, and it ended up being a music video where in the background, as you're going to see in just a moment, I had It's Great to Be an Engine playing. And I basically ran around with all of the engines on my layout, and it was just designed to be sort of a teaser, or just to try to get people hyped for the upcoming first episode of my rebooted series. Now, because I have a Thomas song playing in the background, I can't show this clip in its entirety or in its full capabilities, because I'm going to have to mute the clip so that I don't get any copyright strikes. But if you want to, you can pause the video right now, pull up a version of It's Great to Be an Engine. It's roughly like 2.5 minutes long, 2 minutes and 45 seconds long, that sort of thing. And if I remember, I will try to put a link to this version that was playing in the background. It was off of a cassette tape, so it may be an abbreviated version that isn't super popular. So if you want to, pause the video, get that set up, and then once the video starts playing, mute this current video that's going on. I'll just be talking about, you know, certain things, but you can mute it, and then you can play It's Great to Be an Engine in the background, and you can kind of get the full experience. So sorry I wasn't able to include the original audio, but you can definitely hear It's Great to Be an Engine playing in the background, and the YouTube copyright censors are definitely going to get it, so I don't want to receive any of that. So anyway, just pause the video, get that all set up, and let's start the TWR series trailer video right now. So we start off with Henry, and it's playing It's Great to Be an Engine in the background, and try to get some nice close-up shots of the engines as they travel around the layout. He's pulling the log car, which was one of my new items at the time. I always liked this layout. Like I said, I just thought it worked really well. And as you'll notice here, when an engine runs into another engine, then that engine goes. It's kind of like a relay around the railway. And of course, you know, It's Great to Be an Engine's playing in the background, so it's nice and musical. Rosie goes up over Henry's tunnel. We bypass Thomas because he's actually the last engine that gets moved. But then we go to Toby, who goes from the sheds and then into the... Oh, we have to wait for Bulstrode. Then the drawbridge goes down. And it's a music video. And Toby goes to the docks. And then I think Gordon, yeah, with the express coaches. I don't know why I didn't make a layout video of this layout. I don't know. I can't remember why. But yeah, this was, like, you know, the title suggests on my computer here, it was a trailer. It was designed for people to get pumped up, and I tried to use as many engines as I could, you know. So this took some planning. I remember I was really proud of the way this turned out, because this took some serious planning to get all of the engines coordinated, and of course I had to do a couple of test runs, because you can't have too many engines, you know, you can't have too many engines ready to go and then the song ends, and the song's about, you know, 2 minutes and 30 seconds-ish. So it goes from Oliver and Toad to Duck with this big freight train with troublesome trucks. It was just designed, since I was rebooting my series and I was going to start over from episode 1, it was just designed to basically show off the characters that were going to be featured. And I included some classic characters, and I also included some of the newer characters like Billy there. I was just trying to set the overall tone for my series. Okay, there we have Spencer. Sorry, that was a little bit out of frame. But, you know, the music's going on in the background. It was a really exhilarating video. And then we actually go back to Gordon, who backtracks with the express coaches, I think to get to Thomas. Man, I just remember the chaos that used to happen when I'd film these types of videos. And I'll actually be able to unmute the audio here at the end of the video, but we're coming to the end of it. I need to get Thomas to the station before the video ends, so I'll actually unmute it here, and you guys can listen to what I say, because I do a little short blab about the series here, so just listen.
Join Thomas the Tank Engine and all of his railway friends in a new wooden railway series called Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures, coming soon to YouTube.
And that was the end of the video. And basically what I had to do there is, since it was playing on a cassette and the song was ending, I had to quickly run over to my cassette player, or whatever it was I was using to play this, and I had to turn it off so that it wouldn't play the next song, because at this time I did everything in one shot and it was nice and hectic. So that's what I had to do. When I set the camera down there really close to Thomas's face, I was actually running over, turning the cassette player off, and then I did my little spiel at the end there where I'm like, you know, join Thomas the Tank Engines and his brand new adventures, coming soon to YouTube, which is something that a couple of different Thomas Wooden Railway YouTube users did. They used to make these types of trailers. So glad I was able to at least show you guys the footage. I know the full experience isn't really there because I had to take the song off, but hopefully, if, you know, the people that wanted to listen to the song and listen to the footage at the same time, hopefully it ended up being an okay experience. If not, you got to listen to me blabble about some unimportant things. But yeah, it ended at Knapford Station. It started with Henry, and like I said, I just remember being really kind of impressed with myself. I was able to pull this off, and I had to do it a couple of times because, you know, sometimes the engines would just fall right off the track and it'd ruin your momentum, you know, and it, you know, since it's sort of a timed thing, I had to make sure everything, you know, was going at the right pace, and I actually got to the station a little bit early, fortunately, so that's why I wasn't able to unmute it until the song was officially over. But anyway, that was a trailer I did for my series just to kind of promote it. I remember being really kind of proud and accomplished after all this was done, because it was honestly a pretty big task to try to coordinate all that. Whereas I did a little music video thing to promote my Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway series, I ended up doing something a little bit different to promote Narrow Gauge Adventures. And that's right. At one point, at this point in my life, I was going to try to work 3 series at the same time, which was not a smart idea. So the biggest criticism, or the biggest, you know, complaint I got at my videos during this time is that you know, the narrow gauge engines were running on the same track as standard gauge engines and all this stuff. And so this was going to be my way of differentiating the series. So I was going to have all of the standard gauge engines appear in Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures. And then I was going to have a separate series called Narrow Gauge Adventures, which would feature the narrow gauge engines. And then I was actually going to have a third series, which I'll show off here in a second. So the main thing, though, is that each series was going to use the same layout. However, it would be implied that, you know, the narrow gauge engines were on the narrow gauge railway and that sort of thing. The reason this ended up not being such a good idea is that I ended up only focusing on the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway series, and I never even ended up filming any episodes for the Narrow Gauge Adventures series or the Duke's Railway Story series, which was the third series I was going to do. So this is the trailer for Narrow Gauge Adventures. It's much shorter than the previous one. It's only like 45 seconds long. So let's take a listen to it.
The narrow gauge railway is always full of excitement, and there is never a dull moment. Join Skarloey and all of his friends in his new wooden railway series called Narrow Gauge Adventures. Here are the main characters: Skarloey, Rheneas, Sir Handel, Peter Sam, Rusty, Duncan, Fearless Freddy, Smudger, and Mighty Mac. Duke and Ivo Hugh, however, will also make occasional guest appearances, but will be main characters in Duke's own new series called Duke's Railway Stories. Anyway, be sure to watch Narrow Gauge Adventures with all of its excitement and surprises. Coming soon.
So that was the trailer for Narrow Gauge Adventures, and I just kind of showed off all of the narrow gauge engines that I had at the time. I didn't have Proteus or anything like that, and obviously Millie hadn't been introduced. I didn't have Bertram either. But then at the end there, I make, a reference to that third series called Duke's Railway Stories. And so Duke and Ivo Hugh, in this series, they were going to appear in the background here and there. However, they are going to be the stars in their own series called Duke's Railway Stories, whereas Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures was going to take place in the present day, and same thing with Narrow Gauge Adventures. Duke's Railway Stories were actually going to be told as flashbacks, and they were going to be learning moments for the younger engines and that sort of thing. So speaking of which, I guess I'll just play the trailer for Duke's Railway Stories here right now. So here it is.
Duke has been on the island of Sodor for many long years. And don't you think you would have a couple of stories to tell after all those years on Sodor? Well, if you guessed yes, you are correct. Duke is proud to announce that he will be starting his new wooden railway series titled Duke's Railway Stories. Included in the series are Duke, Ivo Hugh, and everybody's favorite new friend, Neil. Duke is very excited about this series and hopes that everybody on YouTube is excited too. He hasn't announced the date that the series will premiere, but he's just telling everybody that this is a series you won't want to miss. The series will be coming soon to YouTube.
So that was a super short trailer as well, about 43 seconds, and I apologize for the blurry camera work. I don't know why. I thought that was a good idea back then. But there was a couple of misconceptions with this series just because, The Thomas the Tank Engine wiki wasn't around at this time, I don't think, so I don't know. For some reason, I was under the impression that, you know, Duke was an old engine, obviously, and I was under the impression that Ivo Hugh was an old engine. Maybe it was just because of his face. It kind of looked like an old engine's face to me. So I thought, you know, okay, you know, Duke and Ivo Hugh, they'll sit around the campfire at night and they'll tell these, you know, stories about when they were young. And then I was also under the impression that Neil was narrow gauge, which I don't really understand. Later in my series, and you know, the normal series, not this rebooted series, I would have an episode where Neil was brought to Sodor and he interacted with all of the narrow gauge engines as if they were narrow gauge. And I think that just goes back to some confusion I had when in the Railway series, you know, when Skarloey comes to Sodor, Neil greets him there, and I never really put two and two together that they are actually not the same gauge. But the reason I included Neil was that he was an old engine and he had some stories to tell and that sort of thing. So, as you might have seen, yeah, this series, or all of these series going at once, was going to be a lot of work. As you're going to see here in just a little bit, I never filmed any episodes for Narrow Gauge Adventures or Duke's Railway Stories. I just never got around to it. I was trying to focus on Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures and couldn't really get there either. So these trailers are really all that I have left when it comes to these series. It was a good idea in theory to try to give each, you know, gauge or, you know, set characters their own series so that they could have more screen time, whereas, you know, in the past, you know, the narrow gauge engines were trying to fight for the spotlight up against the standard gauge engines, and I really didn't want to have that happen anymore. But it ultimately ended up being too much work and too much of a hassle and never really got off the ground. But I'm glad I at least made these trailers just so I can kind of see and remember what things were like back then, and honestly, it was a lot more fun. So that'll do that for Duke's Railway Series trailer. The next video I want to show you guys is the TWR series teaser. Now this is about a 30-second long video, again with some Thomas the Tank Engine music in the background. I'm really sorry about that. It's just the Thomas the Tank Engine theme music, you know, from about seasons, 1 through 8 or so. And really it just shows Thomas moving along the track. He leaves the sheds and then he backs in an Atford station, and that was really the entire teaser. So let me show you that clip right now. It's going to be muted because of the copyrighted music in the background, but if you want to find the original Thomas the Tank Engine theme and then play it once the video starts, or a few seconds after the video starts, I think, then you should be good. But other than that, let me play the video for those who aren't going to have any special music over it. So here we go. So it starts, Thomas leaves the sheds. I'm trying to show off as many engines as I can. He's got Annie and Clarabelle in the sheds for some reason, which is just a bit unique. I had trouble getting the engines around that corner there. Good thing they don't have to go very far. So I flipped the switch, still having trouble. But hey, we make it to Natford Station. And that's it. That is the entire teaser, 30 seconds long, exactly, you know, to the same duration as the original Thomas and Friends introduction, you know, music, that sort of thing. So nothing too special there. It was not like I was going to include this at the beginning of my episodes or anything like that. It was literally just a teaser, you know, to keep the fans occupied while I was in the process of making the upcoming episodes. So the next 3 video clips that I'm going to show everybody are the first 3 episodes of the rebooted version of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures. I'm going to play them each consecutively like somebody would have watched back in the day, and these were the only 3 episodes that were filmed or, you know, made it to YouTube out of, you know, the 3 series I was trying to run at the same time. I only got working on these 3 episodes for the primary series. So the first episode is titled Edward and James. It's an original story, but it has, you know, a strong Railway series, TV series influence to it. The second episode is called Percy's World Record, which, if you know my series, I made an episode called Percy's World Record back in season 6. However, I changed some things, I adapted some things, And really, it was my opportunity to basically work out the kinks and anything else that went wrong in the original version of the episode. Basically, I was getting a second shot to make all of my episodes over again. So that was pretty much what, this series, this rebooted version of my series was going to be about, is I was going to use a lot of plots and titles from the original series. And then at the time, I forgot to mention, I was going to upload all of the original versions, all of those old videos that I made back on the Keekre24 account. I was going to upload those to a channel called Keekre24 Fan Club. So I was going to have two channels running at the same time. Keekre24 Fan Club is where I'd be uploading all of the old videos. And then you could come to my current channel, ThomasWoodenRailway, and basically see new adaptions or new versions of those same episodes. So Percy's World Record was episode number 2. Excuse me, I've been talking for a while. And episode number 3 was titled Diseasel Knows It All. And this was later adapted into a season 6 episode of my series, but that was after I decided to re-upload all of my old episodes, and it gets kind of confusing. But, whereas Percy's World Record was an adaptation of one of my own episodes, this Diseasel Knows It All episode became the source for an adaptation later on, and that episode is still part of my series. So I apologize in advance for the crudeness, and just the way this was filmed. There's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of mumbling. Excuse me as my voice is going out. I'm going to have to take a break here. I hope you just kind of take what I'm showing you guys at face value. It's nothing fantastic. It's nothing spectacular. It's just the way YouTube was back in 2009. So I'm going to play the entirety of Edward and James, which is about a 9-minute episode, and so is Percy's World Record, and Diseasel Knows It All is pretty long as well. But those were the first 3 episodes of my rebooted version of my series. You guys will be able to hear the original audio and everything like that because there's no copyrighted music. If anybody really knows my series, you may, get some references here and there, or may notice, the source of inspiration for some things. But if not, just enjoy the episodes for what they were. Again, they're just the rebooted versions, the rebooted version of my series with these brand new episodes. So I'm just going to play all 3 of them in a row so that you can watch them. And I think it will become pretty apparent why I wasn't super happy with the reboot of my version of my series after you watch them. So here we go.
Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 1, Edward and James. James is one of the most popular engines on the island of Sodor. He believes it's because of his red paint, and James is right. The passengers on the island of Sodor think James is a very nice engine. However, he can sometimes think of himself too much. He likes pulling the express. It makes him feel proud, and of course, he gets to show off his red paint. James usually likes most of the engines on Sodor. However, he doesn't like engines that make him late. Because of that, he despises Edward. Edward has done many kind things for James in the past, but James only looks on the present. He highly dislikes Edward. One day, James arrived at Knapford Station. "Where's Edward?" he said. "I'm going to be late." "Edward has yet to arrive," said Gordon. "Ah, yes," said Henry. "Edward's going to be late again." "Shut up," said Duck. "Edward's not late. He's right on time. He has to be at the station in 1 minute, and he's not going to get here in 1 minute." All the engines laughed. "Be quiet," said Duck. "Edward's better than all of you," he said. "He'll be right on time. You wait and see." Just then they all heard a faint whistle. "Told you so," said Duck. "Well, Edward needs to get here right now," said James. "Not within 1 minute." Just then, however, Edward puffed around the bend. He looked very tired. "Sorry," said Edward. "One of my crank pins broke, and my driver had to fix it. I'm sorry. Am I late?" "Nope," said Edward. "Nope, Edward," said Duck. "You're right on time." "Well, he's late, according to my watch," said James, and James fumed out of the station. "Don't listen to James," said Duck. "He's just full of himself and doesn't think of any other engines on the railway." James puffed angrily out of the station with Edward's passengers. "Edward has no value to this railway," he thought to himself. He always makes me late. The express coaches were tired of hearing James grumble. They wanted a real engine. James had always bumped the express coaches, and the coaches hadn't liked it one bit, and they were getting very tired of it. "Let's pay him out," said the first coach. "That's a great idea," said the second coach. "Oh, that's great," said the first coach. "I have a plan. Just stay quiet until then." James went through the construction site and up over Henry's tunnel. But James was complaining about the express coaches. come along, he said. "You're holding me back. You're holding me back." "We're not holding you back," said the coaches. "Yes, you are. Now be quiet." "We're sorry," said the coaches, but they really weren't sorry. They wanted to pay James out more than ever. Presently, James came to a signal, and he had to stop at it. "Bother," said James. "This is terrible. Oh dear, I might as well be late." The coaches giggled to themselves. "This is where we do the plan," said the first coach. James had to stop at the signal because Bulstrode was crossing under the drawbridge. He was taking his time, as he didn't want to crash into the sides of the wall. If he did, well, that meant disaster for sure. James saw this and he thought he was being cheeky. "Hurry up, Bulstrode," said James. "You're making me late." This distracted Bulstrode, and suddenly, "Oh dear," said Bulstrode. Now I can't get out." James was furious. "Now you've only made me even more late." Just then the coaches began their plan. "Bump him quickly and quietly," said the coaches. "All right," said the others. Slowly but surely the coaches pushed James. James didn't notice it at first, but soon he pushed right through the signal. "Wait," said James. "My driver's not on board. He went to go talk to the signalman." And James was right. "Stupid coaches," he said. "Stop, stop." "Help," he called, but his driver didn't hear him. Bulstrode, meanwhile, was working to trying to get his way out, but James was coming closer and closer. "Help," called James as he began the incline. Just in time, Bulstrode backed out just as James crashed into the icy cold river. "Oh," said James. "Ouch." The coaches laughed and laughed. "Serves you right," they said. "Now we'll have a proper engine to pull us." And the coaches were right. Sir Topham Hatt came to see James. "I am very disappointed in you, James," he said. "I give you a chance to pull the express, and look what you've done to it. This is not the time to be fishing." "I'm sorry, sir," said James, "but it was these coaches." "That's what you always say, James," said Sir Topham Hatt. "I have had it. Gordon is busy with some other work, and Henry isn't feeling well. The only engine left on the railway to pull the express is Edward. Murdoch is also busy as well, and Spencer is pulling the Duke and Duchess around Sodor. He'll have to do it." "But, sir," said James, "Edward can't pull the express." "You wait and see," said Sir Topham Hatt. When Edward heard he was pulling the express, he was very excited. "Hooray," he said. "I've always wanted to pull the express." Gordon and Henry laughed. "Huh," they said. "You couldn't pull the express." "You wait and see," said Edward. "I'll do it, and you know it." Edward puffed out of the station. Just then, Duck stopped him. "What is it?" asked Edward. "Prove them wrong, Edward. Go out and pull the express, and make Sir Topham Hatt proud. Let's show these tender engines what we can do." "Yes, indeed," said Edward, and he puffed away. Soon Edward arrived. "Good," said Sir Topham Hatt. Now, James, I have ordered the breakdown train to come and pick you out." "Thank you, sir," said James. It was very uncomfortable. Soon the breakdown train did arrive, and James was put into a siding. The drawbridge was down, and Edward began to pull the express. He found it hard to start the train, but he soon crept along inch by inch. James only laughed. "He can't do it," said James. "Oh, no, he can't. He can't do it." "Just wait and see," said Sir Topham Hatt. "I know he can, and I know he will." Slowly but surely, Edward made it up the steep slope. Edward was panting hard, and his fireman was hard at work. "Keep on going, Edward," he said. "You're almost down the other side." And once Edward was down the other side, the train flew down the line right into Henry's tunnel. James stared open-mouthed. "Goodbye, James," said Edward. "Have fun." and Edward raced around the bend. "I told you so," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Edward is the engine who can pull the express." "Grrr," said James, and he went on about his other work. Edward rushed along the line. "Well done, boys," said the driver. "Keep it up. You're doing great." Edward sped along the line. The coaches even helped him a little bit. He sped right through Ellsbridge Station. "Now on to Knapford Station," said the driver. "Then we'll be done for the day." But unfortunately, when he came to Gordon's Hill, he had a little bit of trouble. He sped up, but he only had a little ways to go. "Oh dear, I'm slipping!" The coaches knew they needed to help Edward. "Just give him a little push," said one of the coaches. "That's a great idea," said the other one, and so they did. Bump by bump, Edward made it up the hill. "Thank you," he said to the coaches. "That was very nice of you." "That's all right," said the coaches. If an engine doesn't bump us, we don't mind bumping him back." Edward laughed. Soon, Edward puffed into Knapford Station. "Ha," said Duck. "I told you so. There's Edward." "Well done, Edward. I told you guys," said Duck. "I'm very happy for you, Edward. You did fantastic." "Thank you," said Edward. Gordon and Henry were open-mouthed. "This is unbelievable," they said. "So," said Duck, I heard that you also did the express in record time." "Yep," said Edward. "What do you guys think about that?" But Gordon and Henry had puffed silently away. They didn't want to hear about Edward's victory story, but Duck, of course, did. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 2, Percy's World Record. It had been a long afternoon for Percy, and he finally brought the last shipment of milk into Knapford Station. Meanwhile, some engines were waiting for him. Oliver was very impressed. "Well done, Percy," he said. "You've brought on the largest shipment of milk ever on the island of Sodor." "Yes," said Murdoch, even I'm impressed." But Percy was too tired to answer, and he puffed away. That night, Percy came back to the shed, but he was greeted as a hero. "Well done, Percy," said all the engines. "Yes, indeed," said Gordon. "Well done." "What did I do?" asked Percy. All the engines laughed. "Didn't you hear?" said James. "No, I didn't hear," said Percy. "What?" "You broke a world record," said Edward. "A world record," said Percy. "Oh, that must be very important." "Yes, indeed," said Henry. "You are the fastest engine in the world to pull the milk." "Yes," said Gordon. "You should feel very proud of yourself." Percy was very proud. "Oh, this is fantastic," he said. "I can't wait to pull the milk tomorrow." "Yes, indeed," said Edward. Maybe you can break another world record." Soon, however, all the engines went to sleep, but Percy was too excited. When his driver and fireman came in the morning, Percy rushed off quickly. He was very excited. Percy came in the Knapford Station like usual. He was going to begin another day pulling the milk. "Good luck, Percy," said Stepney. "Thank you," said Percy. "I thank you for your encouragement as well. It makes me feel very happy." And Percy puffed away quickly. Percy was very happy to be pulling the milk. It made him feel very splendid. Come along," he said to the tankers. "We're coming," said the tankers. "We're coming." No rush. "Yes, indeed, we must rush," said Percy. "I need to break another world record." But however, he was soon stopped by Sir Topham Hatt. "Please, sir," said Percy, "I need to go by. I need to break a world record." Sir Topham Hatt laughed. "Percy," said Sir Topham Hatt, "you broke a world record yesterday. You should take a day off." "I don't want to, sir," said Percy. "I need to break another world record." "No, Percy, I'm going to let Thomas pull the milk today." Percy was cross. "But he doesn't deserve to pull the milk. I broke a world record." Sir Topham Hatt was very angry now. "You will take some freight cars to the docks," he told Percy. "Yes, sir," said Percy. Thomas was coupled to the milk and he puffed away. But what even made Percy more angry was that he popped away without saying goodbye. "Ugh," said Percy. This made him very cross. He came back to the shed. "Why aren't you pulling the milk?" asked James. "Yes, why?" said Henry. "You need to break another world record." Percy explained what Sir Topham Hatt had said. "Oh dear," said Edward. "Well, you must listen to what Sir Topham Hatt has to say. He is in charge of us all." But Gordon was cross. "Percy is a world record engine," said Gordon. Even I haven't broken a world record." "Huh, you should feel very proud of yourself, Percy." "Thank you," said Percy. "But most of all," said Gordon, "if you have any trouble in the yard today, just use your world record excuse to get by it." Unfortunately, this went right to Percy's head, even though the 4 engines were joking. Percy didn't know they were joking, however, and he puffed away to the yard. He came into the yard. He decided to use his excuse. "Excuse me," said Percy. "Mike, will you shunt my trucks?" "No, indeed," said Mike. I have a train to pull." "Emily, will you shunt them?" "Pah," said Emily. "I'm not an engine to shunt trucks." Percy was very cross. "Oh, look, there's Arthur. He'll be sure to do it." But when Percy asked, Arthur refused. "Do them yourselves," said Arthur. "But I'm a world record engine. You should treat world record engines very highly." "Oh, whatever," said Arthur. "I don't care if you're a world record engine or a stupid little tank engine. I'm not going to shunt your trucks." Percy became very agitated by this. "Hey, Arthur," he asked, "what's your next train?" "I'm taking some freight cars," said Arthur. "Oh, that's very nice," said Percy. "I'll go shunt them for you." "Thank you," said Arthur. And Percy puffed away. Percy puffed right up to the freight cars. "Can you keep a secret?" said Percy. "Yes," said the freight cars. "We will keep a secret." "Good," he said. "I want you guys to play a trick on Arthur. He's been very mean to me lately." "Oh," said the trucks, "we'll play a trick on him." "Thank you," said Percy. "Oh, and don't tell Arthur that I made this happen." "Oh, we won't," said Scruffy. "We won't." "Thank you," said Percy. But every wise engine knows that you cannot trust the freight cars. Arthur, meanwhile, waited and waited. "Where is Percy?" he said. "He was going to shunt my freight cars for me." "Oh, never mind," he said. "I guess I'll just have to do it myself." And Arthur puffed straight to his freight cars. And he set off. The truck followed so quietly, though, that Arthur thought he had them under control. When he came to Henry's tunnel, the trucks decided to play their trick. They tried holding Arthur back at the hill, but all Arthur did was just give himself a little extra power, and he swept over the hill. They tried to hold Arthur back going down the hill, but Arthur just continued forward. Finally, however, Arthur came to a signal. He had to stop. This gave the trucks time to think about their next plan. Soon, however, the signal turned, and Arthur continued along his way. Arthur was supposed to go through Henry's tunnel, but unfortunately the troublesome trucks were being troublesome, and they pushed Arthur right past the points. "Whoa," he said. "Watch out, Toby." Toby was waiting in a siding. "Ah," said Toby. He ran backwards quickly. The trucks pushed Arthur on and on. "Help!" called Toby. He knew that the track ended further down the line. "Help!" called Toby. Luckily, Cranky had a very smart idea. He dropped his package right on the track, and Arthur hit it and he fell over. The truck stopped, but Toby couldn't stop in time, and he accidentally dipped Henrietta right down into the sea. "Oh, Henrietta," said Toby, "I'm so sorry." Henrietta couldn't speak. She was covered in water. Sir Topham Hatt came to inspect the damage. He was very cross with Arthur. You will go to Edward's branch lines, so you can learn to be a very useful engine." "Yes, sir," said Arthur, and he puffed away sadly. Soon, however, the news spread, and soon Percy learned about it. "Oh dear," said Percy, "that was my fault." Percy helped clean up the damage. "Thank you, sir. Thank you, Percy," said Sir Topham Hatt, "for helping clean this up." "Yes, sir," said Percy, "but the one thing that I came here to talk about is, well, I told the I told the trucks to play a trick on Arthur. You did? said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes, I was a very silly engine, and I could only think about my world record status. Oh dear, if anyone's to get punished here, it's me. Well, I'm glad that you are being a very honest engine, Percy, said Sir Topham Hatt, but you must serve a punishment. In this case, you will go to Edward's branch line instead of Arthur for 1 month. 1 month? But I won't get to see any of my friends. You'll get to see Edward every single day, said Sir Topham Hatt. Percy thought this was very unfair, but he had duly done a very silly thing indeed. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 3, Diesel Knows It All. The workmen at the quarry had just finished loading the stone into the soda china clay cars. Just then, Rosie popped up. Thank you for being on time, she said. All my trains today have been late. It's nice to finally be on time. Glad to hear that, said Thumper. Thank you, said Rosie, and I'll be off now. Rosie puffed out of the quarry, feeling very happy with herself. However, as she came into the yard, she saw 2 unfamiliar diesels. Said Rosie. I've never seen those diesels before. I guess I'll go talk to Mavis and Daisy over there. They'll know what to do about those diesels. As Rosie passed the diesels didn't even glance at her. They don't seem friendly, said Rosie. Ooh, this might not be a good idea. But Rosie decided to do it anyway. She puffed right between the engines. Who are those 2 new diesels over there? She asked. Oh, said Daisy, those two diesels aren't new. They've been on the railway a long time. But I've never seen them before, said Rosie. Oh, laughed Mavis, they've been on the part of the island where only the diesels are allowed. Have you seen them before? Yes, said Daisy. I went over on that part of the island to take a goods train once, and that's when I first met them. Oh, they aren't very friendly at all. Rosie highly disliked having enemies on the railway. She liked having all friends. She said, I don't want to be enemies with those engines, but I also don't want to be friends as well. I wonder what I should do. Go ask Harvey, said Mavis. He'll know what to do. You're right, said Rosie, and she puffed away. Whenever Rosie had a problem, she always went to talk to Harvey about it. Rosie explained the situation. How about you just go up and ask them and try to get into a conversation? Then it will seem that you're very friendly, and maybe that will make them want to be friends with you. That's a great idea, said Rosie. Thank you, Harvey. You always know what to do in the bad situations. You're welcome, said Harvey, and Rosie puffed away. Later that day, Rosie was shunting some freight cars in the yard. The diesels were still sitting in the siding doing nothing. Rosie decided to act casual. It appeared as though she was shunting, but she really wanted to meet the diesels. She puffed right in front of them. Hello, said Rosie. I'm Rosie, she said. Who are you two? I'm Ari, said this one. And I'm Bert, said the other one. Well, nice to meet you two, she said. Anyway, well, I just want to know if we could be friends. The 2 diesels laughed. Be friends? With a steam engine? Yeah, right, they said. We're only friends with diesels. Please, said Rosie, I really want to be your friend. I don't see what's so bad about that. There's a lot of things bad about that, said Ari. Yeah, said Bert. You diesels took over this railway. However, one day, Sir Topham Hatt won't be in charge of this railway. It won't, said Rosie. What do you guys have planned? Well, it won't be Sir Topham Hatt for sure. Then the diesels will rule the railway. Rosie was feeling very sad. No, you won't, said Rosie. Sir Topham Hatt won't allow it. If I can't make you guys become friends with me, I'll go ask one of your friends. We don't have any friends on the island of Soda, said Ari. Yes, you do, she said. You said you're friends with diesels. And I know one diesel that's always friends with the mischievous diesels. And Rosie puffed away. Oh dear, she said. I tried to become friends with them. I guess I'll have to go to my next resort. What is your next resort? Asked the driver. You know who I'm talking about. Diesel. He's always friends with the mischievous diesels. You're absolutely right, said the driver. Why didn't I think of that? That's a brilliant idea. I wonder where he could be, though, asked Rosie. They soon found him, however. He was waiting at a signal. Rosie explained the situation. Huh, said Diesel. If they don't want to become friends with you, I don't have a thing to do about that. Please, said Rosie, I don't want to have any enemies on the railway. Well, you're going to have an enemy now. Stop bugging me, said Diesel. Rosie felt very sad. Never mind, she said. Oh, dear driver, she said. I tried my hardest, but what shall I do? I really don't know, he said. Let's just go to the docks and pick up our coach. Then let's continue along our day's work. But when Rosie arrived at the docks, her coach wasn't there. Oh dear, said Rosie, where's my coach? There's only this log car there. The workmen, meanwhile, hadn't seen it at all. Salty, however, had a different idea. Diesel came through here a couple minutes ago and picked up the coach. He said he was taking the coach today and that you were going to take this log car. I don't take log cars, said Rosie. I take coaches. Where did you say you was off to? We don't know, said the workman. Just think about it, Rosie, said the driver. If you were pulling that coach, where would be your first stop? Ellsbridge Station, said Rosie. He's got to be there. And Rosie dashed away. And she was right. Diesel had gone to the docks, and he had coupled up to Old Slow Coach. He was pulling her to Ellsbridge Station. Rosie followed quietly behind. Huh, said Rosie. Diesel thinks he knows everything. Well, he really doesn't, and I'm smarter than him. I'll out-trick him. Diesel arrived at Ellsbridge Station, and Rosie crept up quietly behind him. Diesel was waiting impatiently for the passengers to load. Rosie snuck up behind Old Slow Coach. Psst, she said. Old Slow Coach, it's Rosie. Oh, Rosie, whispered Old Slow Coach. It's so nice to see you. Diesel's bumped me terribly. I want to pay him out. Don't worry, said Rosie. I'll pay him out for you. Great, said Old Slow Coach. Look, we're leaving. Come along with us, said Old Slow Coach. All right, said Rosie, and she quietly coupled up behind him. Diesel pulled out of the station. He did feel like the train was heavier, but he just felt like there was a couple of overweight people on the train. Diesel started up Gordon's Hill, but Rosie wanted to pay him out. She held back. Grrr, said Diesel. Stop it, Old Slow Coach. It's not me, said Old Slow Coach. It's the passengers. Rosie snickered behind Old Slow Coach. No, said Diesel, it's you. Grrr. Help, called Rosie. Who's that behind there? Asked Diesel. It's Rosie, said Old Slow Coach. What? Said Diesel. He was so startled that the coupling snapped. Rosie and Old Slow Coach fell down Gordon's Hill, and Diesel rocketed up it. Whoa, whoa! He raced into the tunnel on the other side. He was going so fast, however, that he raced out of the tunnel, and there ahead of him was an oil tanker. It was being filled up. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh! Diesel was knocked off the track by the oil tanker. Oh, dear, he said. Ouch. Rosie was coupled in front of Old Slow Coach, and she pulled the train up the hill. When she came to the bottom, she hadn't meant for Diesel to crash. Oh, dear, said Rosie. Sir Topham Hatt's going to be cross. And he was. But when Rosie told her side of the story, and Diesel told his side of the story, Sir Topham Hatt was very cross with Diesel. If an engine wants to become friends with two new Diesels, said Sir Topham Hatt, Diesel, could you please help? I know there is a rivalry between steam engines and Diesels, but I want that to end immediately. Yes, sir, said Diesel. Rosie, go fetch the breakdown train, he said. Anyway, said Sir Topham Hatt, I have some work to attend to. I hope you have all learned your lesson. And Sir Topham Hatt walked away.
So the next several clips that I'm going to show off here in a moment were all remakes that I made during this time period. I've tried to show off everything or display all of the video clips so far in the order that I think they were either, filmed or uploaded to YouTube. However, I'm not really 100% sure on the exact timeline because I really don't have any records of when this stuff was made. In fact, I don't really know if I ever got around to uploading all of these remakes that you are going to see. So I'm guessing, when I first decided to, reboot my channel and I moved everything up to my room, I made the collection video and then I made sort of the trailers for the upcoming series and the teaser. And I'm not really sure where those 3 episodes that you guys just watched, where they fit into everything. But I'm guessing before I actually made those episodes, I spent a little bit of time working on remakes. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't remember if I uploaded all of these or not, but I definitely filmed them. And I have, those original remake clips here on my computer. So There are 7 remakes that I did. The first one that I'm going to show you guys is Edward's Exploit. The second one is a remake of the Diseasel with Bill and Ben. And then the rest of them all have to do with Percy. I don't know why I decided to make all these remakes with Percy, but we have Percy and the Signal, Percy Proves a Point, Percy Runs Away, Percy Takes the Plunge, and Percy's Predicament. Now what's really interesting is later on in the summer of 2009 when I went back to doing remakes, and obviously these remakes that I'm going to show you here in a moment were only on YouTube for a short while and then they were removed. When I went back to making remakes in the summer of 2009, I didn't remake some of the remakes that I'm going to show you here in just a second for some reason. You know, back then I would do my remakes in a very strange way where I'd make like a little custom layout for the episode, and then I would play the audio on my big television in the background, and that's how I did my remakes. But I never did a modern version or like a version in my basement. I never did a remake of Edward's Exploit, even though I obviously had the audio for that, or the Diseasel, or Percy and the Signal, or Percy Proves a Point. What's interesting is that later in the summer of 2009, I did do another remake of Percy Runs Away, and Percy Takes the Plunge, and Percy's Predicament, and actually those remakes are still available to view on my channel if you want to view them. But for some reason, those first 4 remakes, Edward's Exploit, the Diseasel, Percy and the Signal, and Percy Proves a Point, I guess I never got around to making a more modern version where I was in my basement, that sort of thing. So it's kind of interesting. I ended up doing, you know, remakes of 4 episodes that I guess I didn't bother making a modern remake of a couple months later when I was doing all of those remakes again. So I don't believe, I'm really hoping that I won't have any copyright issues here. I'm going to leave the original audio up with the you know, original clip that you guys are going to see here. So I'm going to let you watch all of these 7 remakes in order with no interruptions. You know, I really don't remember this time of my channel really that well, so I don't really have any fun facts or anything to share with you guys, but I'll just let you watch all of these 7 remakes in order with the original audio, starting with Edward's Exploit.
Riding the bus was giving some visitors a tour of the island of Soda. It was their last afternoon, and Edward was preparing to take them to meet Bill and Ben. He found it hard to start the heavy train. Did you see him straining? Asked Henry. Positively painful, remarked James.
Just pathetic,
Grunted Gordon.
he should give up and be preserved before it's too late.
Shut up, burst out Duck. You're all jealous. Edward's better than any of you. You're right, Duck, said Boko. Edward's old, but he'll surprise us all. I've done it. We're off. I've done it. We're off, said Edward, as he finally puffed out of the station. Bill and Ben were delighted to see the visitors. They loved being photographed. Later, they took the party to the China Clay Works on a brake van special. Everyone had a splendid time, and the visitors were most impressed. Then Edward took the visitors home. On the way, the weather changed. Wind and rain buffeted Edward. His sanding gear failed, and his fireman rode in front, dropping sand on the rails by hand. Edward's wheels slipped fiercely, and with a shrieking crack, something broke. The crew inspected the damage. Repairs took some time.
One of your crank pins broke, Edward, said his driver. We've taken your side rods off. Now you're like an old-fashioned engine. Can you get these people home? They must start back tonight. I'll try, sir, promised Edward. Edward puffed and pulled his hardest, but his wheels kept slipping and he could not start the heavy train. The passengers were anxious. The driver, fireman, and conductor went along the train, making adjustments between the coaches. We've loosened the couplings, Edward. Now you can pick up your coaches one by one, just as you do with freight cars. That'll be much easier, said Edward. Come on, he puffed and moved cautiously forward. The first coach moving helped to start the second, and the second helped the third. I've done it, puffed Edward. Steady, boy, warned his driver. Well done, boy. You've got them, you've got them. And he listened happily to Edward's steady beat as he forged slowly but surely ahead. At last, battered, weary, but unbeaten, Edward steamed in. Henry was waiting for the visitors with the special train. Beep, beep. Sir Topham Hatt angrily pointed to the clock, but excited passengers cheered and thanked Edward, his driver, and fireman. Duck and Boko saw to it that Edward was left in peace. Gordon and James remained respectfully silent. Bill and Ben are tank engine twins. Each has 4 wheels, a tiny chimney and dome, and a small squat cab. Their freight cars are filled with china clay. It is needed for pottery, paper, paint, and many other things. The twins are now kept busy pulling the cars for engines on the main line and for ships in the harbor. One morning they arranged some cars and went away for more. They returned to find them all gone. The twins were most surprised. Their drivers examined a patch of oil. That's diesel, they said. It's a waddle? Asked Bill. A Diseasel, I think, replied Ben. There's a notice about them in our shed. Coughs and sneezels spread Diseasels. You had a cough in your smoke box yesterday. It's your fault the Diseasel came. It isn't. It is. Stop arguing, you two, laughed their drivers. Let's go and rescue our freight cars. Bill and Ben were horrified. But the Diseasel will magic us away like the freight cars. He won't magic us, replied their drivers. We'll more likely magic him. Listen, he doesn't know you're twins, so we'll take away your names and numbers, and then this is what we'll do. Puffing hard, the twins set off on their journey to find the diesel. They were looking forward to playing tricks on him. Creeping into the yard, they found the diesel on a siding with the missing cars. Ben hid behind, but Bill went boldly alongside. The diesel looked up. Do you mind? Yes, said Bill. I do. I want my cars back. These are mine, said the diesel. Go away. Bill pretended not to be frightened. You're a big bully, he whimpered. You'll be sorry. He ran back and hid behind the cars on the other side. Ben now came forward. Car stealer? hissed Ben. He ran away too. Bill took his place. This went on and on till the Diesel's eyes nearly popped out. Stop, you're making me giddy. The two engines gazed at him. Are there two of you? Yes, we're twins. I might have known it. Just then, Edward bustled up. Bill and Ben, why are you playing here? We're not playing, protested Bill. We're rescuing our cars, squeaked Ben. Even you don't take our cars without asking, but this Diseasel did. There's no cause to be rude, said Edward severely. This engine is a Metropolitan Vickers Diesel Electric Type 2. The twins were most impressed. We're sorry, Mr. Never mind, the Diesel smiled. Call me Boko. I'm sorry I didn't understand about the cars. That's all right then, said Edward. Now off you go, Bill and Ben. Fetch Boko's cars, then you take this lot. There's no real harm in them, he said to Boko, but they're maddening at times. Boko chuckled. Maddening, he said, is the word. Percy works in the yard at the big station. He loves playing jokes, but they can get him into trouble. One morning, he was very cheeky indeed. Beep, beep. Hurry up, Gordon. The train's ready. Gordon thought he was late. Ha, 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 laughed Percy and showed him a train of dirty coal cars. Gordon thought how to get back at Percy for teasing him. Next, it was James's turn. Stay in the shed today, James. Sir Topham Hatt will come and see you. Ah, thought James, Sir Topham Hatt knows I'm a fine engine. He wants me to pull a special train. James's driver and fireman could not make him move. The other engines rumbled carefully. They had to do James's work as well as their own. At last, the inspector arrived. Show a wheel, James. You can't stay here all day. Sir Topham Hatt told me to stay here. He sent a message this morning. He did not. How could he? He's away for a week. Oh, said James. Oh, where's Percy? Percy had wisely disappeared. When Sir Topham Hatt came back, he was cross with James and Percy for causing so much trouble. But the very next day, Percy was still being cheeky. I say, you engines, I'm to take some freight cars to Thomas's Junction. Sir Topham Hatt chose me especially. He must know I'm a really useful engine. More likely he wants you out of the way, grunted James. Gordon looked across to James. They were going to play a trick on Percy. James and I were just speaking about signals at the junction. We can't be too careful about signals. But then I needn't say that to a really useful engine like you, Percy. Percy felt flattered. We had spoken of backing signals, put in James. They need extra special care, you know. Would you like me to explain? No, thank you, James, said Percy. I know all about signals. Percy was a little worried. I wonder what backing signals are, he thought. Never mind, I'll manage. He puffed crossly to his freight cars and felt better. He came to a signal. Bother! It's a danger. The signal moved to show line clear. Its arm moved up instead of down. Percy had never seen that sort of signal before. Down means go, and up means stop. So up or still must mean go back. I know, it's one of those backing signals. Come on, Percy, said his driver. Off we go. Stop, you're going the wrong way. But it's a backing signal, Percy protested and told him about Gordon and James. The driver laughed and explained. Oh dear, said Percy. Let's start quickly before they see us. He was too late. Gordon saw everything. That night, the big engines talked about signals. They thought the subject was funny. Percy thought they were being very silly. Percy worked hard at the new harbor. The workmen needed stone for their building. Toby helped, but sometimes the loads of stone were too heavy, and Percy had to fetch them for himself. Sometimes he'd see Thomas. Well done, Percy. Sir Topham Hatt is very pleased with us. An airfield was close by. Percy heard the airplanes zooming overhead all day. The noisiest of all was a helicopter. Silly thing, said Percy. Why can't it go and buzz somewhere else? One day, Percy stopped at the airfield. Hello, said Percy. Who are you? I'm Harold. Who are you? I'm Percy. What whirly great arms you've got. They're nice arms, said Harold. I can hover like a bird. Don't you wish you could hover? Certainly not. I like my rails, thank you. I think railways are slow, said Harold. They're not much use and quite out of date. He whirled his arms and buzzed away. Percy found Toby at the quarry. I say, Toby, that Harold, that stuck-up whirlybird thing, says I'm slow and out of date. Just let him wait. I'll show him. He collected his freight cars and started off, still fuming. Soon they heard a familiar buzzing. Percy, whispered his driver. There's Harold. He's not far ahead. Let's race him. Yes, let's, said Percy. Percy pounded along. The cars screamed and swayed. Well, I'll be a ding-dong-dang, said the driver. There was Harold. The race was on. Go it, Percy, he yelled. You're gaining. Percy had never been allowed to run fast before. He was having the time of his life. Hurry, 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 he panted to the cars. We don't want to, we don't want to, they grumbled. It was no use. Percy was bucketing along with flying wheels and Harold was high and alongside. The firemen shoveled for dear life. Well done, Percy, shouted the driver. We're gaining. We're going ahead. Oh, good boy, good boy. A distant signal warned them that the harbor wharf was near. Beep, beep, beep. Brakes, conductor, please. The driver carefully checked the train's headlong speed. They rolled under the main line and halted on the wharf. Oh dear, groaned Percy. I'm sure we've lost. The fireman scrambled to the cab roof. We've won! We've won! He shouted. Harold's still hovering. He's looking for a place to land. Listen, boys, the fireman called. Here's a song for Percy. Said Harold the helicopter to our Percy, you are slow. Your railway is out of date and not much use, you know. But Percy and his stone cars did the trip in record time, and we beat the helicopter on our old branch line. Percy loved it. Oh, thank you, he said. He liked the last line best of all, and was a very happy engine. Henry, James, and Gordon were miserable. They had been shut up for several days for being naughty and longed to be let out again. At last, Sir Topham had arrived. I hope you are sorry, he said, and that you understand that every job on the railway is important. We have a new tank engine called Percy, who helps pull coaches, and Thomas and Edward have worked the main line nicely. But I will let you out now if you promise to work hard. Yes, sir, said the three engines, we will. That's good. But please remember that this no shunting nonsense must stop. Sir Topham Hatt then told Percy, Edward, and Thomas that they could go and play on the branch line for a few days. And they ran off happily to find Annie and Clarabelle at the junction. The two coaches were very pleased to see Thomas again. Edward and Percy played with the freight cars. Stop, 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 screamed the cars as they were pushed into their proper sidings. But the two engines lagged and went on shunting until the cars were tidily arranged. Next, Edward took some empty cars to the barn. Percy was left alone. He didn't mind that a bit. He liked watching trains and being cheeky to the other engines. Hurry, 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 he would call, and they got very cross. After a great deal of shunting, Percy was waiting for the signalman to set the switch so he could get back to the yard. Percy was being rather careless and not paying attention. Edward had warned Percy, be careful on the main line, whistle to the signalman that you were there. But Percy didn't remember to whistle, and so the busy signalman forgot him. Percy waited and waited. The switch was still against him, so he couldn't move. Then he looked along the main line. Beep, beep! He whistled in horror, for rushing straight toward him was Gordon with the express. Oh! groaned Gordon. Get out of my way! Percy opened his eyes. Gordon had stopped with Percy's buffers just a few inches from his own. But Percy had begun to move. I won't stay here. I'll run away, he puffed. He went straight through Edward's station and was so frightened that he ran right up Gordon's hill without stopping. But he couldn't stop. He had no driver to shut off steam and apply the brakes. I want to stop! I want to stop! He puffed. The man in the signal box saw Percy was in trouble, so he kindly set the switch. Percy puffed wearily onto a nice empty siding, ending in a big bank of earth. He was too tired now to care where he went. I want to stop! I want to stop! I have stopped, he puffed thankfully. Never mind, Percy, said the workmen as they dug him out. You shall have a drink and some coal, and then you'll feel better. Presently, Gordon arrived. Well done, Percy. You started so quickly that you stopped a nasty accident. I'm sorry I was cheeky, said Percy. You were clever to stop, replied Gordon. Then Gordon helped pull Percy out from the bank. two engines are now good friends, but Percy is always most careful when he goes out on the main line.
One day Henry wanted to rest, but Percy was talking to some engines. He was telling them about the time he had braved bad weather to help Thomas. It was raining hard. Water swelled under my boiler. I couldn't see where I was going, but I struggled on. Oh, Percy, you are brave. Well, it wasn't anything really. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Tell us more, Percy. What are you engines doing here? Hissed Henry. This shed is for Sir Topham Hatt's engines. Go away. Silly things, Henry snorted. They're not silly. Percy had been enjoying himself. They are silly, and so are you. Water's nothing to an engine with determination. Huh. Anyway, said cheeky Percy, I'm not afraid of water. I like it. He ran off to the harbour singing. Once an engine attached to a train was afraid of a few drops of rain. No one ever lets me forget the time I wouldn't come out of the tunnel in case the rain spoilt my paint, huffed Henry. Thomas was looking at a board on the quay. Danger! We mustn't go past it, he said. That's orders. Why? Danger means falling down something, said Thomas. I went past danger once and fell down a mine. I can't see a mine, said Percy. He didn't know that the foundations of the quay had sunk. The rails now sloped downward to the sea. Stupid board, said Percy. Percy made a plan. One day, he whispered to the cars, will you give me a bump when we get to the quay? The cars have never been asked to bump an engine before. They giggled and chatted about it. Driver doesn't know my plan, chuckled Percy. On, laughed the cars. Percy thought they were helping. I'll pretend to stop at the station, but the cars will push me past the board. Then I'll make them stop. I can do that whenever I like. Every wise engine knows that you cannot trust freight cars. Go on, they yelled, and bumped Percy's driver and fireman off the footplate. Ah, said Percy, sliding past the board. Percy was frantic. That's enough. Percy was sunk. You are a very disobedient engine. Percy knew that voice. Please, sir, get me out, sir. I'm truly sorry, sir. No, Percy, we cannot do that till high tide. I hope it will teach you to take care of yourself. Yes, sir. It was dark when they brought floating cranes to rescue Percy. He was too cold and stiff to move by himself. Next day, he was sent to the works on Henry's freight train. Well, chuckled Henry. Did you like the water? No. I am surprised. You need more determination, Percy. Water's nothing to an engine with determination, you know. Perhaps you will like it better next time. Percy is quite determined that there won't be a next time.
Daisy, the diesel railcar's work in the countryside, was full of surprises. But she was frightened of bulls and cows, and she remained very lazy and stubborn. One day, Toby brought Henrietta to the station where Percy was grumpily shunting. "Hello, Percy. I see Daisy's left the milk behind again." "I'll have to make a special journey with it, I suppose." "Anyone would think I'd nothing to do," grumbled Percy. "Tell you what," replied Toby, "I'll take the milk, you fetch my freight cars." The drivers and station master agreed. Percy had never been to the quarry before. He began ordering the freight cars about. "Hurry along," he said. The freight cars grumbled to each other. "This is Toby's place. Percy's got no right to poke his funnel up here and push us around." They whispered and passed the word. "Pay Percy back. Pay Percy back." "Come along," puffed Percy. "No nonsense." "We'll give him nonsense," giggled the freight cars. But they followed so quietly that Percy thought they were under control. Suddenly they saw a notice ahead. "All trains stop to pin down brakes." "Beep, beep. Brakes, conductor, please." But before he could check them, the freight car surged ahead. On, they cried. "Help, help," whistled Percy. The man on duty at the crossing rushed to warn traffic with his red flag, but was too late to switch Percy to the runaway siren. Frantically trying to grip the rails, Percy slid into the yard. "Beep, beep, look out!" The brake van was in smithereens. Percy's driver and fireman had jumped clear, but Percy was stranded. Next day, Sir Topham had arrived. Toby and Daisy had helped to clear the wreckage, but Percy remained on his perch of freight cars. "We must now try," said Sir Topham Hatt, "to run the branch line with Toby and a diesel. You have put us in an awkward predicament, Percy." "I am sorry, sir." "You must stay there till we are ready," continued Sir Topham Hatt. "And you really must be more careful with freight cars." Percy sighed. The freight cars groaned beneath his wheels. He quite understood about awkward predicaments. Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to Daisy, too. "My engines work hard. I send lazy engines away." Daisy was ashamed. "However, Toby says you worked hard after Percy's accident. So you shall have another chance." "Thank you, sir," said Daisy. "I will work hard. Toby says he'll help me." "Excellent. What Toby doesn't know about branch line problems isn't worth knowing. Our Toby's an experienced engine." Next day, Thomas came back. And Percy was sent to be mended. Annie and Clarabelle were delighted to see Thomas again, and he took them for a run at once. All are now friends, and Toby has taught Daisy a great deal. She shoot a cow off the line the other day all by herself. That shows you, doesn't it?
So those 7 remakes were filmed and they were scheduled to be uploaded to my channel somewhere, during the early part of February or even the middle part of February on this ThomasWoodenRailway account. I want to say I'm pretty confident that at one point each of those remakes was uploaded to my channel, but they weren't on my channel for super long because then I decided to purge everything and basically just re-upload all of the old videos that I had made back on Keekre24, and that was kind of the end of that. So those remake clips that you guys just watched haven't seen the light of day in nearly 10 years, and they probably wouldn't have seen the light of day unless I'd done a video like this where I showed them off. So What was really interesting about those remakes, just one more quick thing, is that normally for the remakes I made during this time period, I would build a custom little layout for each of the episodes that I was remaking, so that it would be easier for me to move around and move the engines. But for some reason, I guess since I had that big layout up, I decided to kind of do the opposite, and I had to work the remake into the layout, whereas I've always made a custom layout for the specific remake that I'm doing. So that's just kind of an interesting fun fact. So those are the last videos that I have from the early part, or the early part of the Thomas Wooden Railway era of my channel. Again, all of the videos you've just watched when they were up in my room, they are from, I'm guessing February 2009, around that area. And my original intention was to reboot my series and start all over and basically, use the lessons that I'd learned and learn from my mistakes and just try to make my series better than ever than it was the first time I uploaded it. But then I decided, you know what? Instead of just, redoing the same thing that I'd already done, I'm just going to upload all of the old videos, and once I basically catch up to the point where my account was hacked, then I'll start making new videos. So that's what I did from about, February, I think, or probably around March more so. March, April, May, and even into June, I want to say. I just uploaded as many of my old videos as I could. If you go back and you look at some of my old videos that were uploaded, that were originally uploaded during the Keekre24 time, you'll notice that some of them have the same upload date, and that's because I would come home from school and just open up the YouTube uploader and just upload like 10 videos at a time. I mean, I think I did even, more than 10 videos some days. My entire goal was just to get all of that old footage back on YouTube as quick as possible. And then around May or June of 2009, I finally caught up and I was able to finish out season 6 of my series, which is that was, cut off during the time because that's when my Keekre24 account was hacked. So I was able to finish that that season, and then I think I did a season update where I announced I was going back up to my room and I was going to film a movie two movies called Wheels of Fortune and The Legend of Diesel 10. But then before I did that, I actually made some remakes, which I was talking about before. I just showed you guys the remakes in this video clip. I did some remakes in my basement, and then about middle of June or so, I moved everything back up to my room, and I made a layout video, which I want to say off the top of my head is labeled the 5th layout video that I uploaded. But it's the one in my room. I really like the layout that I built. It's different to the one that you guys just saw in those remake clips. But the 2 movies I was going to do, I was planning on filming season 7 during the summer up in my room. But then I was going to film 2 movies beforehand, and one of those movies was called Wheels of Fortune, which was going to be quote-unquote canon to my series, and then the other one was going to be titled The Legend of Diesel 10, which is something that I call a documentary, where I was going to go back to the early days of Sodor, and it was going to sort of where we were going to see how did Diesel 10 first come to Sodor and how does that lead up to everything that we saw in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And if you guys know my channel, you'll know that The Legend of Diesel 10 was actually made and uploaded. It was just uploaded about 2 years later. It was uploaded in the fall of 2011. But nonetheless, it still made it to YouTube, and it's still on YouTube to view if you're interested. However, the first movie that I was going to upload, which I said was like canon to my series, was going to be called Wheels of Fortune. And I actually uploaded the first 4 parts of the movie. This was during June and July of 2009. And the whole premise of the movie is that I had a bunch of these new engines that I had gotten, like Neville and Molly and Dennis, and I think I was even going to introduce Neil as a new engine, and I had Stanley and Whiff and Max and Monty and Byron, basically all of the new engines during this time period around 2008, 2009. Instead of just introducing them one by one into my series, I decided, you know what, I'm going to make a movie where Sir Topham Hatt buys all of these new engines, and the senior engines, or the well-documented engines on Sodor like Thomas and Edward and Gordon, they were going to feel so-called threatened, by these new engines. All of a sudden, these newer engines are coming in, and they're basically going to take their jobs. And so it was going to be, this multi-part movie. I think it was going to be 5 parts, where the first part, we were kind of set up that all of these new engines have come to Sodor. Stanley included. I think I was going to include Hank in there as well. I was just, basically any new engine that I had in my collection that I hadn't introduced at this point, I was going to introduce into the movie. So the first part was going to be, it was going to show just a little bit of tension between the older engines and the newer engines. And then part 2 was going to elaborate on that, where basically the newer engines tick off the older engines. And then at the end of part 2, the older engines like Thomas and Percy, they decide they're going to take out or basically get the new engines into trouble so that they can get their jobs back, because Sir Topham Hatt, he was way out of character in this movie. I made him out to be a bad guy, where he was trying to introduce these new engines because they were just a lot better, and for, to use a Thomas term, they are a lot more revolutionary than these older engines. So the older engines didn't like that. They didn't like that they were being replaced. So at the end of part 2, they agree they're going to basically sabotage the new engines. And then part 3 was going to be the new engines, like I think Stanley was going to pull Annie and Clarabelle. Well, Thomas takes out Stanley. And, the older engines were being really selfish because they were, making all of the trains late, and they were running the new engines off the tracks. And it was going to be a great big crash fest. And then part 4 was going to be the exact opposite. The new engines, Stanley Whiff, Neville, Molly, Dennis, etc., they were going to get their revenge on the older engines. So then that was a crash fest as well, because all of the newer engines had been damaged in the crashes from part 3, so Sir Topham Hatt had to put the old engines back on their old trains. Well, then part 4 comes along, and the new engines are going to sabotage the old engines, and basically there's a ton of confusion and delay. And at the end of part 4, Sir Topham Hatt is just completely embarrassed and cross with everybody. He's just extremely angry with what's going on. He can't believe that the engines are basically intentionally causing crashes just to get back at each other. And he decides he's going to leave Sodor for a small vacation. And then he's basically like, you know what? You engines need to figure out what's going on, and you need to make it right. And by the time I come back from my vacation, everything better be spotless and clean. And if it's not, then there will be major consequences. And part 4 ends with Sir Topham Hatt driving away. And that was another thing, is the older engines were a little bit offended because I had introduced Sir Topham Hatt driving around in a car for the first time in my series. And they were a little bit offended by this, because they were like, oh, are we not reliable enough anymore? Like he has to take a car around. So there was just a lot of conflict and tension. And part 5 was going to be Sir Topham Hatt trying to leave the island, but then this big storm comes up and he gets caught in a storm, and the engines basically have to come together and work together in order to save him. And then I would presume there would be this happy ending where everybody makes up. I filmed the first 4 parts of Wheels of Fortune and actually uploaded them to my YouTube account. Parts 1 and 2 were uploaded in June of 2009, and then parts 3 and 4 were uploaded in July 2009. So there was a bit of a gap, and I don't remember why that was, but I filmed basically parts 1 and 2 back to back, and then I didn't do anything for a month, and then I finally came back and filmed 3 and 4. The reason I ended up not filming part 5 is because by the time it came around to film part 5, I was just completely disinterested in the movie. I didn't really like where it was going. I had made Sir Topham Hatt out to be this bad guy, and I just wasn't really satisfied with what was going on. While I was making the film, while I was filming everything, I was like, oh, this has potential. It's definitely going to be, a fairly high-strung movie with a lot of conflict and tension. But then I just got around to thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? This really isn't going to fit into my series that well. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So instead of filming part 5 and trying to turn things around at the last moment, I just deleted the entire movie. I wasn't really satisfied with it. I was kind of embarrassed that I had, done all of these major changes to these beloved characters, like trying to make Thomas and Sir Topham Hatt out to be these big villains and everything. And I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I just ended up deleting the movie. and or I guess I should say I made the movie private, so it's actually still on my YouTube channel. Like if I go into my video manager, it's still there, but nobody can view it, and that's basically what it's just been sitting there for 9 years or so, and I never got around to filming part 5 or anything like that. An interesting fact, the reason part 5 was never filmed, along with the fact that I just didn't want to bother with it, well, one day of course this was up in my room, I had my window open because it would get really hot in there in the summer, and I think I was, you know, trying to prep things on the layout to film part 5, and I left my window open, and then I had to go somewhere. I had to physically leave my house, and while I was gone, a big rainstorm came through, and it basically started raining straight into my room. So then when I got home, like my entire room is soaked, or at least the area by my window was soaked, and I had to pull up all the track and put some fans in there to try to, you know, get the moisture and humidity out of there. So then, you know, by the time everything's dry, half of my layout is ripped up. And I just kind of took that as a sign. I was like, okay, well, that pretty much does it for this project. You know, I'd have to put the layout back together, and I really don't want to bother doing that. So that was just another factor that came into things. So enough with me talking. I wanted to provide, you know, sort of a backstory about this movie. All in all, you know, I think it had great potential, but at the same time, it sort of twisted some, you know, character personalities that, looking back on it now, I'm glad I deleted this movie, because I think it would stick out as, you know, just something completely and totally different on my channel. But nonetheless, since I am doing this video series now where I'm showing you all of these, you know, deleted or removed videos, I thought I would show for the first time in about 9 years, Wheels of Fortune. I'm going to show you guys the first part and the second part and the third one and the fourth one all in order. There is no fifth part because it was never filmed. That's just the way it is. And so I think that's enough talking I'll do for now. I know people have asked this movie, or asked me about this movie, for a really long time, because I think they're wondering what happened to it. Well, now you guys get to see the movie, and you can pretty much, you know, judge it as you want to. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, I completely understand. I mean, I didn't like it. That's why I got rid of it. But let me just play parts 1 through 4 all in order here, and then I'll make some brief comments at the end of that video. And then there's one other video clip that I want to show you guys, and this very long video is going to be done. So sit back, relax, and try to enjoy Wheels of Fortune, the lost Thomas and Friends Wooden Railway movie.
Keekre24 Studios, in association with Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends Wooden Railway Adventures Productions, are both proud to present Wheels of Fortune. Tigermoth zoomed down the runway, and then he stopped. "How was that one?" he asked. "That one was fantastic," said Harold. You're getting better and better." Tigermoth and Harold were at the Sodor airfield, and Tigermoth was practicing his takeoffs and landings. "However, on this next one, you should try to get a little more air on your takeoff. You know, if a train were to come along the track here, you'd smash right into it." "You're right," said Tigermoth. He spun around backwards. Soon he was zooming down the runway. "Whee!" he called, and he zoomed back around. "Perfect!" called Harold. "Absolutely perfect." Tigermoth came in for a landing. "How was that one?" "Brilliant! You're getting better and better." "Oh, I'm sorry. I must go. I'm going to have to take. I'm going to go on a patrol for the island of Sodor. So Topham Hatt wanted me to do it. Goodbye." And soon Harold buzzed away into the sky. Tigermoth wanted to practice his takeoffs and landings a little more, but he knew he wasn't supposed to do it without supervision. "It would be all right," he said to himself, "if I did it for just a little bit. Plus, I wouldn't hurt a thing." Tigermoth zoomed back around, and he sped down the runway and lifted up into the air. "Ah," he said, "what a nice day it is. I'm just going to go up a little higher. Maybe a little higher. Ah, perfect." Soon he could see the entire island of Sodor. Everything was very busy. All the engines were working hard. Tigermoth zoomed back around. "Whee!" he called. "Hey, this is a perfect day for doing some flips in the air." And soon he flipped upside down. "Whoa!" he called. "This is cool. Hey, how did Boulder get so low? That's weird. I thought he was much higher in the sky." But while Tigermoth had been flying upside down, he had accidentally descended. When he flipped back over, he was heading straight toward Boulder. "Whoa!" cried Tigermoth. At the last moment, he zoomed upward. But the wind from Tigermoth moved Boulder, and soon Boulder fell right right onto Mavis's freight train. What was that for? Said Mavis, but Tiger Moth didn't hear him. Tiger Moth zoomed backwards. Ah! He cried. He was headed straight for the docks. Hey, watch out! Said Cranky. Tiger Moth zoomed right into the package, and it fell right onto the ground. Sorry, called Tiger Moth. My bad. Yeah, said Cranky to himself. It is your bad. Tiger Moth had to zoom back to the Sodor airfield. Okay, I can do this. I can do this, he thought to himself. Tiger Moth was coming in for landing, and all of a sudden his wing hit the runway. Ouch! He cried. He flipped over on his roof and began tumbling end over end until he landed dead center at the Sodor crossing, upside down. Ouch! Called Tiger Moth. Oh, that hurt. And anyway, what happened? He couldn't remember a thing. Meanwhile, Stanley was on his debut trip. It was the first time Sir Topham had let him pull coaches. If he did well, this could be Stanley's main job. But soon, however, he came to Stepney. What's the matter? Said Stanley. You have to go before me. I can't, said Stepney. Look, there's Tiger Moth. He crashed here. Oh no, said Stanley. If I'm late, Sir Topham Hatt will never let me pull coaches again. Uh-oh, said Stepney. That's bad. I hope Harvey gets here soon. Don't worry, said Toby as he puffed at Ellsbury Station. Here he is. Harvey arrived. Sorry I'm late, he said. Whew, the yard is busy. You can't find anywhere to get through. Anyway, I'll get this mess cleaned up in no time. Soon Tiger Moth was off the track, but he was still dazed and confused. Shame on you, said Bush, without flying without supervision. Huh, I hope Sir Topham Hatt punishes you. Whatever, groaned Tiger Moth. He still couldn't remember what happened. Thank you for letting me go, called Stanley. You're welcome, said the other engines, and Stanley rushed away. Am I late, driver? He asked. Unfortunately, Stanley, you are. Don't worry, you can make up for the lost time. I mustn't be late, chanted Stanley. I mustn't be late, and the coaches agreed. He mustn't be late. He mustn't be late. Stanley zoomed over Gordon's Hill, and then he came right down into the yard. Peep, peep, he called to Henry. I'm sorry I'm late, but may I go in front of you, he asked. Of course, said Henry. I've been late before, and I know that feeling. Oh, thank you, said Stanley. How wonderful. But just then he realized that the shed door was closed. Ah, cried Stepney. This will even slow me down even more. However, just then a workman came over and propped it open. Thank you, called Stanley. He zoomed into the yard. Peep, 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 he called. Neville was just going to go across the turntable, but Stanley zoomed right in front of him. Sorry, he said. I'm going to be late. Stanley zoomed into Knapford Station, but up ahead, Gordon's express coaches were waiting. Bother, said Stanley to himself. I'm late, and Sir Topham Hatt will be furious. And Sir Topham Hatt was. Stanley puffed into Knapford Station 5 minutes late. Stanley, he said crossly, if you're going to be part of the island of Sodor, you're going to have to be on time. I'm sorry, sir, said Stanley, but no buts about it, said Sir Topham Hatt crossly. Come on, Gordon, we're going to be late, and he hopped on board. I may be an express engine, said Gordon, but I can't make up for lost time. If I were you, I wouldn't be late next time, especially if Sir Topham Hatt's waiting. Gordon rushed off. He's right, said Spencer. You shouldn't be late, little Stanley. Stanley felt worse than ever. Don't listen to them, said Daisy. They're just two big engines with big boilers. Huh. I don't even listen to him, and look where it's gotten me in life. Spencer ignored her. I don't care what a diesel has to say, said Spencer, but now since the Duke and Duchess are living on Sodor now, I don't have to pull any of those dirty freight cars or that ugly old coach over there. Ah, it's such a relief. Anyway, goodbye. Don't listen to both of them, says Daisy. They're just puffed up. Stanley wished he could believe it. And now I've blown my chance to pull coaches, he thought. Gordon rushed out of Knapford Station. I'm sorry, sir, said Gordon, that Stanley was late. That's all right, said Sir Topham Hatt. But all these new engines are just causing me trouble. I wonder if it was a good idea to bring all these new engines on the island. I think it was, sir, but they just need to learn to be on time. However, when they got into the yard, there was more trouble. Whiff, Dennis, Molly, Hank, and Neville were sitting around the turntable gossiping. What are you engines doing here? Said Gordon. You guys are supposed to be doing your work. Sir Topham Hatt got out. I'll handle this, Gordon. Just then, Sir Topham Hatt repeated what Gordon had said. Yeah, what are you guys doing here? We finished our work, sir, said Molly. Yep, and I don't care what you have to do, said Sir Topham Hatt. Huh, what did you guys have to do today? The engines didn't know what to say. Oh, come on, you know what you did. Just then, Percy arrived. Sir, said Percy. What is it? Asked Sir Topham Hatt. They did their work. Look. Neville shunted those freight cars over there. Molly put old Slow Coach over there. And Dennis pushed Scruffy and Fred into that siding. See, sir, they really did do their work. Sir Topham Hatt wasn't impressed, but he didn't want to admit it. Oh, good job, he thought. But Neville, you must move. Gordon's going to be late. Neville got onto the turntable and he spun around. Thank you, said Sir Topham Hatt. Now, Percy, you get a move on it, too. I hear you have to pull the mill today. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, said Percy, and he rushed away. Come on, Gordon, let's go. And Gordon thundered off. Gordon zoomed through the yard. Huh, thought Sir Topham Hatt. These new engines are nothing but trouble. At least I have a good old express engine that I can count on. But just then, Gordon began to slow down. What's the matter, Gordon? Asked Sir Topham Hatt when he had calmed down. Oh, dear, sir, I haven't been to the works forever. I believe one of my pistons have broke. Huh, said Sir Topham Hatt. That would figures. This day keeps on getting worse and worse. Huh, I guess I'll have to walk to the docks from now on. And Sir Topham Hatt walked away. Meanwhile, Gordon's driver went to go get help. It took a very long time, but finally Sir Topham Hatt arrived at the docks. Sir, said Bulstrode, you look very tired. I am, panted Sir Topham Hatt. I had to walk all the way from the yard here to the docks. That's a long way, sir, said Cranky. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that to yourself. I had to. Gordon broke down. This is miserable. My old engines and my new engines are causing me trouble. What should I do? I can't even get all the way around Sutter with having trouble. You know, sir, said Cranky, road vehicles are becoming more popular. You should buy a car. Oh, please, said Sir Topham Hatt. That's actually a pretty good idea. Yes, I'll buy myself a car. Then I'll have no problem at all going around the island of Sutter. And there will be no faulty engines that will stop me. That's a good idea, sir, said Bulstrode. I know it is. Hey, Salty, get a move on it over there. Sorry, sir, said Salty, but the Flying Scotsman's in my way. Flying Scotsman, you move immediately. Sorry, sir, said the Flying Scotsman. And Salty, meanwhile, puffed away. Oh dear, I better go look at the car right now. It only seems as time goes by, it gets worse. And Cranky, pick up that package right there. Sorry, sir, Tiger Moth came by and hid it. I'll pick it up as soon as I can. Good, said Sir Topham Hatt. Now I must go pick out a new car. And with that, Sir Topham Hatt walked away to the car dealership. Wake up, lazy bones, said a voice. Thomas opened his eyes. Who's there? He said. Oh, Thomas, said the voice. It's only me, your driver. Oh, said Thomas. What time is it? Well, the time is... Oh, never mind. You better get to the station or you're going to be late. Good thing I slept in this shed tonight, said Thomas. Thomas's train last night had gotten in late, and he hadn't had time to go back to the shed. So Thomas decided to sleep in the useful engine shed. Come along, said his driver. We don't want to be late. No, indeed, said Thomas, and soon Thomas rushed away. He passed his old friend Terence. He would have liked to talk, but he knew he couldn't be late. Goodbye, Terence, said Thomas. I wish I could talk, but unfortunately my busy schedule... I can't do that with my busy schedule. That's fine, said Terence. I understand. And Thomas puffed away. Soon Thomas entered Knapford Station, but he stared in horror as he saw what had happened. There were Percy, James, and Gordon staring at the platforms. What's going on here? Asked Thomas. That's what's going on, said Percy crossly. And there, sitting in the engine spots, were Stanley, Neville, Whiff, and Hank. What are you engines doing here? Said Thomas. Thomas gasped. Stanley was pulling Annie and Clarabelle. You're not allowed to touch my coaches, said Thomas crossly. I can if I want to, said Stanley. It's Sir Topham Hatt's orders. Don't feel bad, said Percy crossly. Look, Neville's taking the milk today. And look at this, said James. This garbage engine is taking my coaches. How ridiculous. Not as ridiculous as this, mumbled Gordon. Hank, look at him. He's taking the express today. All the four engines were furious. You have no right to poke your funnels in here, said Thomas. Yes, we do, said Whiff. Like Stanley said, it's Sir Topham Hatt's order. He sent us here. That has to be wrong, said Percy. What will we do for today? I don't know, said Neville, but you better move out of the way. We're getting ready to leave. Come on, you guys, said Thomas. Go tell your friends we'll meet around the turntable in a half hour. We can discuss this privately. Soon the engines had rushed off. The engines formed one long line and made their way to the turntable. At last, the engines arrived. More engines had arrived as well. They took their spots around the turntable, and the discussion began. "All right," said Thomas. "It appears as though we all have the same problem. New engines have taken our spots." "Yes," said Edward. "Look in the yard." "Dennis is pulling Rocky today. I can't believe it. He's never pulled Rocky in his life. And look, there's Rocky. He seems so sad." "I feel sorry for you guys," said Thomas. "And who else has a problem?" "Me," said Henry. "Look, Molly's taking old Slow Coach today, and old Slow Coach doesn't look pretty happy about it." Duck and Oliver were furious as well. "Look, there's that new engine over there. His name's Neil, I suppose, and he's taking our freight cars. The freight cars weigh more than him. It's ridiculous," said Oliver. "I understand your feelings," said Thomas, "but we must understand why this has happened. I'm sure Sir Topham Hatt wouldn't do it, but all the other engines keep on saying it," said Toby sadly. "What are we ever going to do?" said James. "Yeah," said Daisy, "we can't let this happen either." Just then Jack and Alfie roared up. "Are you guys having the same problem as us?" said Percy. "Yes, look over there. We're going to do work at the construction site today, but these two troublesome dump trucks and this bulldozer came in and kicked us out. They said that they were replacing us, but we didn't believe them. The troublesome dump trucks are very troublesome, and they're rude too. The bulldozer is quiet, but since he hangs around with them, I assume he's pretty mean. And look, there's this flatbed over there named Madge. Ugh, she's very bossy, and she ordered us to go right away. It's not fair," they said. "Ugh, it makes us so mad." "We understand," said Edward. But the only way we're going to get answers is if we talk to Sir Topham Hatt." "Exactly," said Henry. If he knows what's going on, then we can find out and we can solve this ourselves." "Great idea, guys," said Thomas. "But where is Sir Topham Hatt?" "Right over here," said Sir Topham Hatt as he roared up in his new car. The engines stared in horror. "You like my new car?" said Sir Topham Hatt. The engines didn't answer. "Hello? Is anybody listening to me?" "Sorry, sir," said Thomas, "but you're driving a car." "Yes," said Sir Topham Hatt, "I am." But, Sir Topham Hatt," said Percy, "you've always ridden on trains." I have, but times are changing. I realized yesterday that my engines are not reliable." "Not reliable? Huh, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." All the other engines agreed as well. "Sir, you've always been faithful to us, and we've always been faithful to you. You've ridden trains your entire life, but all of a sudden you decide to ride a car? Drive a car?" "Yes," said Sir Topham Hatt. It wasn't an easy decision, but I found one at a good price." "Do you like it?" The engines were furious. "He's trying to change the subject," said Daisy. "He doesn't want to talk about it." "But, sir," said Duck, "you've always been loyal. What have we ever done to make you sad? Make you so mad?" "Well," said Sir Topham Hatt, "yesterday I realized that, my engines aren't in as good a shape as they were. You know, yesterday I had one engine whose pistons broke." Everybody looked at Gordon. "Not my fault," said Gordon crossly. "Somebody didn't send me to the works in a while. It's not my fault either. You should have told me. Like I was to know. You be quiet. Be quiet. You be quiet. Everybody, please be quiet," said Thomas. "Okay, we're going to get nothing accomplished if we argue. But Sir Topham Hatt, but you need to explain to us why all of a sudden the new engines are taking our spots." "Well, I've decided that it's time for a change." "Yeah, what kind of change?" said Toby. "Well," said Sir Topham Hatt, "I took a survey among the passengers, and they said they would rather have new styles of engines." "But, sir, we can be updated." "Yeah," said Oliver, we're not loads of scrap." "Well, according to the passengers, you are. So I decided to buy all these new engines to replace you." "So we are getting replaced?" said Edward. "Yes, that's true. The engines weren't shot." "What are we going to do now?" asked Daisy. "What's our jobs going to be?" "Oh, I'm sure you can find something around here in the yard. Play with the freight cars or something." "But are you going to scrap us?" "That will come in the future," said Sir Topham Hatt. The engines were furious. "He wouldn't dare scrap us," said Percy. "You never know with Sir Topham Hatt. He's been the superintendent of the railway for many years. But I've never seen anything as bizarre as this before." The engines were now sad more than furious. "We're going to end up being scrapped," murmured Thomas. "Don't worry," said Edward. "We'll figure out a way to get him. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go check on Hank and see how he's pulling the express for his first time." "Ooh, pulling the express is such a wonderful thing, isn't it, Gordon?" Gordon glared at him. Yes, it is, but it's not so wonderful if you get replaced. But by then, Sir Topham Hatt was already roaring away. Oh, I forgot, said Sir Topham Hatt. Toby, when you're done, give Henrietta to Stanley. He will be pulling her from now on. Toby would not. I will not, sir, he said crossly. I will not. Toby is my coach. Yeah, said Thomas. Annie and Clarabelle are my coaches, too. You will do as you are told, said Sir Topham Hatt. My word is the law. And he roared away. The engines were so sad. Oh dear, said James. We need to come up with a plan. Said Thomas. Yes, a good plan, to make sure we get our old spots back on the railway. That's a good idea, said Percy. But what plan? The engines were soon deep in thought. I got it, said Thomas. What is it? Asked Edward. Yeah, said all the engines. What is it? They were desperate for a plan now. All right, said Thomas. This is what we'll do. The engines at the station were getting ready to leave, and they were all very excited. Stanley was more excited than any of the other engines. I'm getting to pull Annie and Clarabelle, said Stanley. Hooray! I'm taking the milk to Farmer McColl, said Neville. Whiff also explained. Guess what? I'm taking James's train. Ooh, that'll make him mad for sure. And I get to pull the express, said Hank proudly. Wow, said the engines, we all get to pull what we always dreamed of. Isn't that fascinating, said Neville. Yes, it is, said Stanley. Only a couple more minutes till we leave. Oh, but I'm sure it will go by extremely slow. Don't worry, said Whiff. We'll be gone before you know it. But what the engines at the station didn't know was that behind the station, trouble was lurking. Thomas and Percy had brought in 2 separate trains. Hurry, said Thomas. They're almost going to leave. Okay, said Percy, and they began their work. First off, Thomas slowly uncoupled Annie and Clarabelle from Stanley. Then he pushed some quarry cars behind Stanley. That's one train done, said Thomas. Hurry, Percy, he called. Percy uncoupled the milk from Neville. And then he shunted some cargo cars up. Well done, said Thomas. Great job. Oh, thank you, said Percy, but we still have 2 more trains to go. You're right, said Thomas. Let's hurry. Whiff, unfortunately, didn't get to take James's train. He got to take the Sodor dairy cars. And Hank didn't get to pull the express that day either. He was going to take the milk. Thomas and Percy looked at their work. Well done, said Thomas. We did a great job. Yes, indeed, said Percy. And look, you got Annie and Clarabelle back too. Oh, yes, said Thomas. I think that's the best part of all. But come on, we need to warn the engines at the turntable what we've just done. You're right, said Percy. Let's go. And the two engines rushed off. Soon they arrived at the turntable. How did the plan go? Asked Edward. It went fantastic, and I don't think the engines know us at all. That's the best part of all, said Toby. I wonder what we can do next. Nothing right now, said Henry, but let's just wait and see what the disaster does. All the engines agreed, and soon they started talking about some random things. Suddenly, the guard's whistle blew at the station. Gotta be off, said Stanley. Goodbye. It's my first day pulling Annie and Clarabelle. Hooray! But as he puffed out of the station, Neville noticed that those weren't Annie and Clarabelle. Stanley, wait, he called, but Stanley was already around the bend. Stanley, meanwhile, was having the time of his life. But the cars didn't like being pulled by Stanley. He looks weird, they said. Let's play a trick on him. Yeah, they agreed. Stanley was about to go past the old shed when the trucks pushed him right into it. Ah! He cried. Stanley was lucky enough to stop the trucks before he crashed into the back, but when he tried to back up, he couldn't. Ah! He cried. The points had been squished. I'm stuck here, he said crossly. I wonder which engine could have done this. Then one name popped into his head. Thomas, he thought crossly. Neville was getting ready to leave at the station. Goodbye, called Neville. See you soon. Goodbye, said Whiff and Hank. Good luck taking the milk. Oh, thank you, said Neville. But Neville puffed out with the cargo cars instead. But Whiff and Hank didn't notice. They were busy in their own conversation. Neville was very excited to be taking his first train on Sodor. I'll prove to Sir Topham Hatt that I can do this, he thought, and I won't let him down at all. He was on his way to Elsbridge Station when he passed the crossing. Peep, peep, he said, coming through. Why, asked Harvey, is Neville taking some cargo cars? I thought he was supposed to be taking the milk. I don't know, said Mike, but it has Thomas written all over it. You're right, said Harvey. This is going to be good. Neville puffed into Elsbridge Station. Phew, he said. Now I just need to ask the guard here for direction to Farmer McColl's. Then I can go. Farmer McColl's, they said. Oh, you're taking stuff to the docks. You're pulling cargo cars. Ridiculous, said Neville. Just ask the guard. Excuse me, sir, but am I taking milk to Farmer McColl's? No, you're pulling cargo cars. I expect you're going to the docks. If you want a quick way, you can just go along this track right here. Neville looked behind him. Oh, no, he said. You're right. Huh, I know who did this. It was Thomas, he thought crossly. Whip soon set off, but he didn't realize that he was taking the Sodor dairy cars. Soon, however, he came to a dead end at the turntable. What? He said. Hey! Huh, and I'm pulling the Sodor dairy cars as well. Not James's train. Huh, this isn't fair at all. I wonder who did this. Just then, he thought of an engine. Thomas, he thought crossly. Yes, Thomas did this. Hank soon set off after all the other engines had gone, but he didn't know he was just taking the tankers. Hank went up the hill. Oh, he said, tankers are heavy. Tankers, he thought. Hey, why are these tankers here? I'm supposed to be taking the express. But the tankers bumped him. Ah! And he fell right off the track. Oh! And everything tumbled behind him. Ouch, he called. Oh, dear. That hurt a lot. Meanwhile, the engines were at the turntable still. So, asked Thomas, how did your and Henry's plan work? He asked Edward. Oh, it worked great. Just look in the yard. Wow, they called. That's a mess. Yes, it is, said Edward. Well, asked Percy, how did you guys do this? It's easy, he said. Last night I asked the trucks if they could bump Neil when Molly was coming out of the yard. Molly was the first to leave today, so when she was pulling out, the trucks bumped Neil. Neil then ran into Molly, and Molly got stuck, and Neil got stuck. Then Rocky used all of his weight to force himself backwards and crashed, so Dennis couldn't get out. And look, he knocked over the signals too. Isn't it wonderful? They all said. Oh, yes, indeed, they said. This is wonderful. Just then, Jack and Alfie arrived. Look, they said, look at the crossing. Look what we did. Those two troublesome dump trucks couldn't stop arguing, so then they crashed into the crossing. And look, there's that bulldozer over there. Since he couldn't get through the crossing, he tried to go over the track, but then he got stuck. All the engines laughed. This is very fun, said Gordon. Just then they heard a car coming. Uh-oh, said James. This doesn't sound good. Sir Topham Hatt roared right up, and Madge followed. Uh-oh, said Alfie to Jack. We forgot to get Madge in the incident. Now she's going to tell on us to Sir Topham Hatt. Sir Topham Hatt was furious. I am very disappointed in you guys, he said crossly. Madge has told me what has gone on today, and I'm not pleased at all. Huh, two troublesome dump trucks crashing into the crossing here? Huh, that's their own fault. But look, now I have to repair the crossing. And and Byron's caterpillars are wrecked up too. This is great. All the trains in the yard are going to be late today because you guys did that. And I heard that two troublesome tank engines also messed with the trains at Knapford Station, so for some reason Neville delivered fish to Farmer McColl's. Thomas and Percy looked at each other. Uh-oh, said Thomas and Percy. We've been caught. This isn't going to be good, said Toby. Sir Topham Hatt was most upset. I can't believe this, he said. Now the engines will have to take your spots on the railway, but you do some unfitting work. You mean they weren't going to take our spots on the railway? No, said Sir Topham Hatt. That is ridiculous. Why would they ever do such a thing? The engines glared at each other. Oh no, we must have misunderstood Sir Topham Hatt, said Oliver. And now look where it's got us. This isn't going to be good at all, said James. Sir Topham Hatt had heard everything, had heard enough. I don't want to hear one word about this, he said. You must go around Sodor and clean up all that has happened today, he said crossly. And by the way, you will shunt the other engines' trains for 1 week now. Ugh, said the engines, that's so unfair. But they knew it had to be done. Sir Topham Hatt roared away in his car, and Madge went the other way. She came into the yard where the dump trucks, the bulldozer, and the engines were. Guess what? They said. The other engines did it to us. I knew it, said Molly. They would be the type to do this. We should get back at them, said Neil. Yeah, said Dennis. But what are we going to do? Asked Byron. Said the dump trucks. I know. What is it? Said Dennis. This is what we're going to do. And they began whispering to each other. By morning, the new engines were all around Sodor ready at their places. They were going to trick the senior engines into getting into a very big crash. All the new engines thought it was going to be exciting, and they knew that this would be payback for what the senior engines had done yesterday. Neville's plan went first. He went to the docks, and soon asked the dockmaster if he could raise the drawbridge for him. He did without question. Then Salty came along the line. He was pushing some cargo cars, and he couldn't see over the top of them. The first cargo car went right into the ocean, but its momentum pulled the second car in with it. And it toppled over, and then it finally pulled Salty in as well. Ouch, called Salty. Hey, who did this? It was me, laughed Neville. Ha, that serves you right. Now you know not to mess with us new engines. And we ran back to Elsbridge Station. Whiff's plan went next. Spencer was on his way to the quarry, but Whiff stood in his path. He didn't have time to stop, so he went on a different line. But the line went straight for the shed. Spencer was going so fast he couldn't slow down, and he crashed at the back of the shed. Ouch, called Spencer. Who did this to me? It was me, laughed Whiff. Serves you right. Ha ha. Duck and Oliver saw everything, but Whiff wouldn't turn the turntable, so they couldn't get down. Come back, said Duck. You won't get away with this, said Oliver. Yes, I will, said Whiff. Just watch me. Whiff ran around back and went to the quarry for his next plan. That day at the quarry, they were going to drill. Thumper was beginning to drill when Madge rushed up. Thumper, you need to come here at once. What is it? Asked Thumper. Just hurry, I'll explain later. And Madge roared away. I better follow her, said Thumper. There might be trouble. And Thumper roared away. Nobody was left to drill now. This was Whiff's chance. He pushed some quarry cars right under Boulder, but they were going so fast they hit the foundation. Boulder began to move. Watch out, cried Whiff, even though he wasn't really scared. Mavis, called Bill, get your train out of here while you can. Boulder might block the path. You're right, said Mavis. She tried to rush out, but it was too late. Boulder fell down the mountain and knocked into a house, crashing into Mavis's train. Then the cargo cars fell over as well. Oh no, said Bill, this is terrible. I can't get out, and Mavis can't get out. Oh dear. Oh no, what are we going to do now? Whiff laughed. Ha ha ha, he called. This was all part of the plan. Mavis and Bill soon realized that they had been tricked. Donald and Douglas were all supposed to go through the quarry as well, but they couldn't. Donald tried to stop, but Douglas was behind him. And he smashed right into the cargo car. Right into the Sodor China clay cars. Oh no, said Donald. Help, we're stuck. And Douglas couldn't get out either. There was more trouble in the yard as well. When James and Gordon went to go shunt some freight cars for the new engines, they realized that they had blocked the way. Huh, said James, they did this on purpose. They knew we wouldn't be able to get through, and now Sir Topham Hatt will blame us. We should get back at them, said Gordon. No, said James, this is their way of getting back at us. Toby also found more trouble. The engines had knocked over the trees on his line. Uh-oh, said Toby. And look, now I can't go backwards either. This is terrible. There was lots more trouble by the crossing as well. Jack and Alfie needed to cross, but Max and Monty wouldn't let them. Let us through, said Jack. We need to get to Knapford Station. No, we won't. No, we won't. We won't let you, they say. Plus, look, Molly's right there. You couldn't get through anyway. Come on, let's just go over the track. But when Jack went over, Molly went forward with her log car and hit Jack right off. Hey, said Alfie, that wasn't nice. While Molly was backing up, Alfie roared around. He was trying to get by as well, but his front wheels got stuck. He said, help, help, Jack, come help. I can't, called Jack. Molly rushed forward again, and he knocked Alfie off. See, look, said Molly, even the signalman at the crossing here agrees with us. But unfortunately, there had been a glitch, so they didn't know. See, said Molly, he really does agree with us. Ha! Meanwhile, Bertie was at the station as well. He needed to get by the crossing, but Byron wouldn't let him by. Let me through, he called. No, can't do, said Byron. I'm blocking the way. I'll show you. Bertie tried to get past him, but it knocked him over again. But it knocked him over too. Called Bertie. This isn't fair, he called. Henry had to go get old Slowcoach from Molly's train. But when he tried to get out, Molly blocked his way with the log car. Told you so, said Molly. Hey, that's three times now. He must really like our plane. Be quiet, said Jack. There must be a glitch or something. He wouldn't do this on purpose. He would go get help. Henry tried to get out, but Molly blocked his way. Hey, now I'm stuck here, he called. This isn't fair. He tried charging it, but he accidentally knocked the logs over right in Bulgy's path. Bulgy swerved to avoid them. And he had to swerve around Alfie as well, but he crashed right into the new fire station. Ouch, called Bulgy. Hey, this isn't fair. Come back. But Molly was already puffing away. There's more trouble by the station as well. Dennis had used up all the fuel at the oil depot, so Daisy couldn't refuel. Daisy ran out of fuel on her branch line, and she got stuck right in between two hills. Oh, great. Now I can't move, and nobody can see over the other side here. Billy was taking the milk, and he couldn't see Daisy below. Watch out, called Daisy. It was too late, and Billy crashed below. Ouch, cried Daisy. That hurt. Oh, and this milk is sour, too. Ugh, I'm going to reek for days. When Stepney and Percy came to Knapford Station to get the engines' coaches ready, they couldn't. The engines had knocked over the signal, so they couldn't get by. Oh, great, said Percy. This is just great. How are we going to get through there? I'm not sure, but I'm sure the new engines are behind this as well. Edward and Harvey were at Knapford Station too, and they couldn't get the breakdown train or Rocky. Oh no, cried Edward. Stupid Molly over there blocked the path. Now we can't get out and go get help. This is just great, said Harvey. Just wait until our Topham Hatt hears about this. Hank also had a plan as well. When Coley was on his branch line, he came up behind him and knocked him off. Coley wasn't expecting it, and Coley went around the sharp bend. Oh, ouch! That hurt. Murdoch tried to go get help, but he met Hank at the top, and Hank shoved him off too. Whoa! Oh! Cried Murdoch, and he landed upside down. Stanley also wanted to get revenge on Thomas for pushing him into the shed, so he shunted Annie and Clarabelle in there. Hey, let us out, cried the coaches. No, said Stanley, and he locked them in there. That'll show Thomas he won't mess with me, chuckled Stanley. The only plan that didn't work that day was Neil. He followed Thomas, who was taken in the Solar Fossil car, to the airport. When Thomas was just about to go down, Neil bumped him, and Thomas zoomed down the hill. Whoa! Cried Thomas. He was going so fast, however, that Thomas crashed right off the side. But there was Sir Topham Hatt. What in the world, Thomas? He said. Hey, what are you doing here, Neil? Said Neil. I didn't know you were here, Sir Topham Hatt. Oh, poor Thomas. He must have gone down the hill too fast. No, I was bumped, said Thomas. Hey, you probably did that. No, I didn't, said Neil. Yes, you did, said Sir Topham Hatt. The evidence is clear. Oh no! Sir Tom had zoomed over the track. What's happened here? Cody? And Murdoch? And Catherine? What in the world is going on here? Tiger Moth, take me up at once to see the damage. Yes, sir, said Tiger Moth, and he zoomed down the runway. Soon, Tiger Moth was in the air, and Sir Topham Hatt was astounded. Look at all this damage, he said. Oh no, the new engines have done this to the old engines, I bet. Huh. I can't believe it. No work has gotten done on Sodor today. I am most upset, and Tiger Moth zoomed back to the Sodor airfield. He was extremely cross. I got into his car. Huh, I guess I'm going to go on a vacation. A vacation, said Thomas. What's that? I'm going to go far away from the island of Sodor, he said. I am so sick of all you engines trying to get payback on each other that you guys aren't doing your work. I will call a replacement controller immediately. I'll be back soon, but I just need some time to unwind. Oh no, said Thomas. He's leaving. Not for very long, said Neil. I hope that this has all made you very happy, said Sir Topham Hatt crossly, and he zoomed away very quickly.
So that was Wheels of Fortune, the long-lost movie that I haven't really talked about on my channel for a really long time, but nonetheless, people still wanted to see it, so I thought, what the heck, I'll show it off, and you guys can let me know what you think about it in the comments below. That's the last video that I filmed up in my room that I'm going to show you guys in this video. In fact, I only have one more video to go. What I ended up doing after I canceled Wheels of Fortune, it was just a time in my life where I kind of became disinterested in Thomas, so I, packed everything away for a couple of months. I think I did a yearbook review, like the 2009 yearbook for Thomas Wooden Railway had just come out, so I did a video on that. But then I didn't really upload anything to my channel for a couple of months. But there was one video that I made during this time that I planned on uploading later but never got around to it. And I've titled this video on my computer here. It's called A Day at the Works Tour. And I basically built out the entire A Day at the Works set on the carpet in my basement. And basically, this was just going to be a tour of the actual A Day at the Works set, which was the very first Thomas Wooden Railway set that I ever got. And the video is only about a minute long. There wasn't any dialogue in the clip because it was just designed to be a short, quick video about the actual A Day at the Works set. It wasn't going to be a review necessarily. It was just going to be me showing off the set and basically saying, hey, for anybody out there who's ever wondered what the Day at the Works set looks like, this is what it looks like. So let me play the video clip here. And as you can see, it's in my basement, but the only thing, around is just the actual Day at the Works set. And there's no audio. It was just me walking around trying to show off the set. In a little bit, twist of fate, I ended up doing a Thomas Wooden Railway discussion on this set back in 2016. So it did end up making its way to YouTube, although it was a much longer and more detailed video, whereas this, again, is just me showing off the items of the set. And it was just designed to be a really short and easy thing to film, nothing too complicated. I think I was just bored one day and was like, you know what? I'll look up the directions for the A Day at the Works set and show everybody what it looks like. So, I think on the Thomas Wooden Railway discussion I filmed it on a table, whereas this was just on the carpet. But yeah, nothing too fancy, and I mean, it was only a minute long, so I don't know if this was going to be a series or not, because at the time I didn't really have a whole lot of completed sets. But, I said it before, it's just really designed to show off the A Day at the Works set just for anybody who was curious. So I kept that video all these years, I think, for the purpose of a video like this, where if I wanted to show off all of the videos that never made it, it'd be included in that. Yeah, that's actually the end of this video, guys. That's all of the secret footage that I have. In short, I've shown you guys over 30 clips about, videos that I did that I intended to upload one day and never got around to, or even just like test videos or small videos that I did back in the day. For anybody who's watched the whole video, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's been kind of a weird video where, there's excitement here and there where I show the actual video clips, and then there's just a lot of me talking, trying to explain what each video clip is supposed to represent. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. You know, I've thought about doing this type of video for a long time. I didn't know if anybody would be interested, but I thought, you know what? The worst thing that can happen is that nobody watches it. But, you know, there may be a couple people out there that really want to see these types of videos that I filmed that never made it to YouTube. So that's really all that I want to say. Again, this is a super long video. If anybody stuck around to watch the whole thing, I want to thank you so much. I hope at least some of the video clips that I showed were somewhat interesting. You know, I think a lot of people have wanted to see Wheels of Fortune. You know, maybe some people have heard about, you know, when I briefly rebooted my series with the Edward and James and Percy's World Record episodes. Maybe they'd want to see that. But anyway, I'll stop blabbering on now. I want to thank you guys so much for 10 years on YouTube. This video is entirely for you guys. I really appreciate your support. And until the next video, this is Thomas Wooden Railway saying thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.